Chapter 2205. An incomparably tragic aura was emitted from the depths of the celestial court. Something indescribable had happened, causing the patrolling troops of the celestial court to be alarmed. The vicious aura in the depths was too dense, causing them to feel chills down their spines. Who is that? His aura is too savage. He's injured to this extent, yet he can still emit such a terrifying aura. He must have been incredible during his prime. The kings were incomparably shocked. Immortal Emperor Zong brought back a broken corpse, but his injuries were too severe. His body was riddled with holes and bleeding, but for some reason, his body faintly emitted a supreme emperor's aura. In the depths of the celestial court, bloodlight surged. The broken corpse looked at the three realms from afar. He saw a golden age, an unprecedented golden age of the three realms. Roar! The broken corpse suddenly roared towards the sky. His body, which was still bleeding profusely, suddenly exuded a boundless majesty. This aura made people's souls tremble, making them want to bow down and worship. The vast divine aura that covered the sky seemed to have transcended billions of years. It revealed the vicissitudes of life and shook the world in an instant. This aura, it was even more terrifying. It was truly earth-shattering. It was more like an emperor than immortal Emperor Zong, more domineering than Big Brother. It was just a broken corpse, but it had such a terrifying aura. It was truly unbelievable. He roared again and again, as if he had recovered his youth and was going to be heroic again. He dispersed the blood-red aura around his body. The majesty he emitted was so grand that it could pierce through the long river of history. Boom! Onto the heavens, billions of creatures were shocked. They saw a supreme figure and couldn't help but want to go over and bow down and worship. Even a group of the strongest emperors couldn't resist his divine aura. This kind of majesty was definitely an invincible figure who wielded great power. For some reason, Big Goldie wanted to cry. He felt that this person was very familiar, as if he had seen him in some other world. Cough, 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 he coughed out blood. He was old after all, unable to defy the heavens and recover. He no longer had the courage of the past. He didn't have the strongest combat power, and he didn't have enough vitality. He felt powerless. He was really old. However, he was satisfied to live until now and see the current golden age. Big Brother solemnly walked up and bowed. Human King. Dark King was the first to react. The short-haired woman was shocked. Human King was still alive. What? Black King and the others were shocked. This was Human King, the Dark Emperor, the Human Emperor, the ancestor of the three emperors. The short-haired woman was just a remnant of Dark King's will. But Human King was different. He shocked the old and dazzled the new. He created a glorious era for the human world. He was extremely scary. His godly power covered the river of history. He was an existence that lived in myths and legends. He stood at the pinnacle and wielded great authority. He actually lived to this age. In fact, the biggest reason for the destruction of the human world was the disappearance of Human Emperor. Some people said that he had fallen, while others said that he was dead. Now that the Human King had reappeared, that meant one thing. Bury the heavens was the remains of the Human King. Big Brother took out a 9-spin good fortune pill and gave it to Human King. He hoped it would help him recover. Leave it for those who need it more than me. Human King was shocked. That pill was very good, but he shook his head and rejected the Big Brother's offer. His injuries were not something that could be healed with pills. He had lost a lot of blood. He was lucky to have lived to this age. In fact, Human King did not think he could be resurrected. His power had a life mark. He was just reincarnated. Are you old, master? Big Gold Man could not control himself. Tears rolled down his cheeks. His big body was stiff as he walked over. Human King smiled. His bleeding hand touched Big Gold Man's head. He was Bury the Heavens, but he was also Human King. Old Master, you are still alive. Big Gold Man madly shouted. Big Gold Man, who was always strong, was like a child. His eyes were red as he knelt on the ground and cried. It turned out that the old master had not left the cave. He had lost control of his emotions. Tai Baokai and the others were confused. What was going on with his remains? Was he being controlled by someone? Or did he have his own emotions? Big Brother guessed that when Human King was at his peak, he was most likely a supreme being. Even if he was not a supreme being, he was very close. His power was undeniable. He was once one of the scariest elites in the Three Realms. He was very satisfied with the prosperity of the Three Realms. He had an invisible, irresistible godly power that protected everyone and shocked the world. Human King is Human King. He is extraordinary. Black King was shocked. He was a natural king. He had just woken up from his stupor, and the first thing he did was look at the world. This prosperity was just as he had wished. Once upon a time, I had a disagreement with them. We fought and I lost. I'm ashamed to face everyone. Human King sighed. The Three Realms had been destroyed. History had played out, and a new supreme era had begun. Tai Baotsai's scalp was numb. This was too ridiculous. Everyone was destroyed. The Three Realms were destroyed. The path played out to be supreme. It was a new era of destruction. The supreme ruled. Initially, the ancestors of the three martial monarchs had considered the current era to be one of destruction. Human King was the king of the world. He protected everyone. He did not allow the laws of the world to be broken. There was a big battle, and he lost. He became Bury the Heavens and continued to fight. But in the end, he failed. The only one left was Sky Embryo Su Yen. They hoped he could rise in the future and restore the glory of Human King. Blurred, Human King spat out a bit of his own blood. It played out a grand Dao formation. Su Yen was shocked. The formation was very old. It spewed out an innate killing light. It was so strong that even he was scared. This formation was very impressive. Was it a natural formation? It was full of infinite law. I will give this to you. I hope it will help you. Human King's body was broken. He was wearing a holy robe. He went to the human world. He wanted to see the mountains and rivers of the past. Su Yen looked at Human King's back. He sighed. He did not know if that man had any hope of recovery. Who is this person? The human world was boiling. Countless elites of different races were trembling. A shadow was walking toward the human world. It was very big. God's power filled all the mountains and rivers. The Tao resonated with it. Billions of clouds were falling. The human world's Tao showed a big path. It congratulated Human King on his return. It shocked the world. What kind of great being was this? Was this the leader of the human world? Although Human King was badly injured and had no hope of recovery, his power was too strong. He made the human world's Tao reach a level of prosperity that it had never reached before. Human King looked at Su Siyu. He summoned him to his side and gave him a supreme Tao. He hoped he could become a king in the future. He could control the human world and protect everyone. You are Human King? Su Siyu was shocked. He looked at the old man. He quickly stood up and bowed. Greetings, teacher. Good. Human King laughed. I just came out. I did not bring a gift. Su Siyu scratched his head. This was Human King. He did not expect him to be so friendly. How could he not know who this person was? He was known as the most ancient creature in the Three Realms. He was the supreme Human King who created the human world. The celestial court was quiet again. Su Yin and the others looked at the pre-sky formation. What was certain was that this formation was left behind by a very scary giant. It had to be a supreme one. The formation contained the mysteries of the sky. It was so powerful that even the Big Brother could not understand it. Human King gave this formation to them. It must be very important. It seems to be a combination of many formations. It has the power to open the sky. Su Yin thought about it and found some important clues. Once this formation was created, it was amazing. It had the power to reverse the sky and the earth. Many years passed. Su Yan's shadow walked through the human world, the dark world, and the celestial world. In the end, Su Yin returned to the Three-World Mountain. Su Yin stood on top of the broken Three-World Mountain. He looked at the universe of the Three Realms. His eyes showed the mysteries of the Three Realms. It was like a key that opened the mysterious world of the Three Realms. He was in a trance. 7 to 8 years passed. Boom! On this day, the Three Realms resonated. A storm swept through. The world was in an uproar. It's time to deal with it. Immortal King Zhang's heaven-defying awakening shocked the three realms. He attracted the attention of the world and swept through the universe. The ultimate destination of the vile earth. It's time for us to set off. Immortal King Zhang's killing intent was unparalleled. It's going to war. It's going to war with the enemies in the vile earth. The entire universe trembled. Countless creatures roared and lost control of their emotions. This day had finally arrived. Dong, dong, dong. The war drums beat. Celestial music exploded. The army covered the sky and covered the earth. Killing intent surged. They gathered quickly and emitted a terrifying storm. What a shocking scene this was. There were almost 10,000 Emperor Dao experts, and the roars of immortal kings filled the sky. Countless taboo experts charged out. We want to join the war too. Many old soldiers cried out loudly, their chests full of fighting spirit. They wanted to follow in their footsteps, go into battle, charge forward. Unfortunately, they weren't strong enough. Even peak emperors weren't qualified to participate in this battle. In this battle, the Heavenly Court had formed a vast army with the taboo as the weakest. They could be called the Heavenly Court's trump card. The Celestial Court sent out 5 million troops for this war. The ferocious aura they emitted shook the ancient river. The energy waves they emitted were terrifying. The Celestial Court was unprecedentedly prosperous. Immortal King Zong, Big Brother, Black King, Dao, Saint Immortal, Sword Ancestor, Heaven Suppression, Female Monarch, and Earth Immortal Earth. The 8 leading experts emitted powerful combat strength. It burned fiercely and burned the universe. It formed a supreme hurricane that swept through the vile earth. Long Day Song, Zi Qilin, Xing Tian, 6 elders of the Celestial Court, Qiu Junjun, Dragon Turtle, Yin Mengyu, 9 World Emperor. The strongest Emperor Dao experts emitted terrifying fluctuations. Tai Baokai, Fairy Zi Xia, Yi Yuan, East Demon, Niok Day Song, Heavenly Force King, Heavenly Dragon Lady, Heavenly Dipper King, Flame Emperor, Yi Si Yun. They were all extremely young Emperor Dao experts. They were the new generation of rulers of the Celestial Court. Now that they appeared in the world, they were like a group of flying immortal war gods. They roared in the 3 realms and returned in triumph. This scene was too shocking. 3 realms as one. The army gathered in the Celestial Court and announced to the world that they would fight in the vile earth. Countless soldiers waved their flags and shouted. The war drums beat. They gathered the momentum of heaven and earth and looked down on everything. The sonorous war song resounded through the 10,000 realms. The surging blood boiled intensely, releasing the momentum of the Celestial Court. It formed a majestic, angry lion that roared at the sky and emitted a tide of energy that made the world tremble. A powerful army, unparalleled ferocious might. Surging and surging, they directly charged towards the vile earth. Kill, victory in one battle. Kill, annihilation in one battle. Kill, victory in every battle. Kill, victory in every battle. Kill, kill, kill. Countless murderous weapons roared, inspiring the battle blood of the people. They ignited their fighting spirit and emitted extremely fierce fluctuations. They wanted to sweep through everything. They wanted to sweep through everything and kill all the enemies. Kill. The army charged, blotting out the sky and covering the earth. The vast world of vile earth exploded. A terrifying path was formed. Chi and blood surged. It was formed, whistling with the light of world burning as it charged towards the 5-color vortex. They wanted to cross the buried Emperor Sea and enter the vile Earth's ultimate land to start the final battle. They had been looking forward to this day for a long time, waiting for a long time. Finally, they set out on this day. Everyone was overwhelmed with emotions. They didn't fear death, throwing their heads and spilling their blood. They wanted to slaughter their way into the depths of the vile earth, quell the great chaos, and suppress the great calamity. Open. Su Yin brandished the immortal killing sword. A terrifying strike cut through epochs and time, blasting the buried Emperor Sea until it trembled violently. A terrifying great crack was instantly hacked open by Su Yan. It tore through the five-colored vortex and rushed out of the enormous sea surface. Heaven-splitting battle. A sword cleaved open the buried Emperor Sea. The final battle is here. Reading Room. Chapter 2206. A beam of sword radiance cut through the epic, opened the time, and destroyed the vile earth. Slash. The immortal slaying sword was unsheathed, and a magnificent sword radiance descended. It overturned the past and present, and its killing power was unparalleled. The extremely terrifying sword embryo condensed into a magnificent golden sword. This sword was quite terrifying, and it pierced through the five-colored maelstrom. What's that? Who's wielding the sword? The strongest sword since ancient times is attacking the three realms. Are there any experts left alive in the three realms? It's a sword. It's not the strongest killing sword since ancient times. Who's wielding the sword? His aura is too terrifying. I can't bear it. In the buried Emperor's Sea, groups of experts with surging blood chi stood on the other side of the five-colored maelstrom. After a long time, the forbidden zone formed by the Monkey King's five-colored immortal iron staff and the supreme order of the buried Emperor's Sea had weakened a lot. A large group of experts stood here, waiting for the five-colored maelstrom to collapse further. Then, they would launch a fierce attack on the three realms and destroy the Celestial Court in one fell swoop. Boom! The extreme sword hacked down, tearing apart the heavens. In an instant, it pressed down, making the group of experts on the other side tremble. They tried to leave, but it was to no avail. The sword intent pressing down from the other side was too terrifying. In the depths of the vile earth, there were not only supreme beings, but also many of their subordinates. They were all Emperor Dao domain experts. Although they were covered in wounds, their combat power was quite shocking. However, when the sword arrived, the bodies of the experts suddenly disintegrated. The buried Emperor Sea also churned with a monstrous blood rain. Huge waves surged, and the murderous aura was unparalleled. Run! A large group of experts roared, frightened. They quickly retreated. The sword radiance was too powerful. It directly tore open the five-colored maelstrom, and the surface of the buried Emperor's Sea collapsed, creating a huge black hole. This was an unbelievable scene. This was the buried Emperor's Sea, formed by endless order laws. It was the place where emperors fell to their deaths. At this moment, the aura of the emperor-burying sea became even more violent. This sword strike shook the sea, causing billowing waves to rise up from the sea surface. Blood flowed down from the broken stars in the sky. One after another, the waves were filled with a terrifying, murderous aura. A large number of powerhouses screamed miserably. They didn't retreat at the first possible moment, and as a result, a large number of powerhouses' bodies disintegrated and exploded into smithereens. The heavens wept blood and died time and space red. It was a heaven-defying sword. A corner of buried Emperor Sea was hacked open. A group of creatures whose primordial spirits were about to be destroyed cried out in fear. They heard shouts of war and saw the unmatched lion cross over, trampling through the ruined, buried Emperor Sea. This was a huge event that shook the entire wasteland. The deities and demons roared in the sky, and the monarchs unleashed their killing intent. The auras of the 5 million-strong army merged together and formed an extremely terrifying force. Moreover, above them, overlords moved through the sky one after another. There was a matchless overlord who suppressed the 9 heavens 10 earths, wielding the heaven-suppressing monument. There was a peerlessly beautiful empress who looked down on the past and present, looking down on all living things. She was like a supreme being that lived in legends, crossing over the undying great earth to arrive, and she emanated extremely powerful combat strength that was much more terrifying than a Dao Saint Immortal. Of course, the most shocking thing was the leading expert. Immortal Emperor Zong swung his sword and split a corner of the buried Emperor's Sea, penetrating the 5-colored maelstrom and launching a counterattack. Reassemble! Immortal Emperor Zong waved his hand, and the five-colored fragments shot out from the maelstrom merged into one, turning into a brand new five-colored immortal iron rod. The iron rod soared through the sky, and the Black King wielded it, emitting a terrifying aura as he roared, "We will win this battle." This time, it was not them who attacked the three realms, but the celestial court who ordered the three realms to gather 5 million heavenly soldiers and generals to suppress the depths of wasteland. "Kill! We will not win this battle." The soldiers roared in the sky. In this destructive space-time, their killing intent soared, and their battle blood burned. They were a group of mad demons, and their battle intent was too strong and domineering. Again, in an instant, Immortal Emperor Zong roared at the sky. The sword embryo was extremely terrifying. It could slay immortals and slay gods. It erupted to the extreme and cut open the buried Emperor Sea. It also surged with terrifying destructive waves. Its aura suddenly became terrifying. Slash. The immortal slaying sword was connected to the gods, and it shone on its own. It was engraved with the symbols of the great Tao, commanding the destruction of the heavens, and the reconstruction of the origin. Heavens! A group of fleeing living beings screamed in fear. What kind of terrifying existence was that? It shook the entire majestic, buried Emperor Sea. A group of experts who crossed to the shore trembled. The majestic, buried Emperor Sea trembled under the extreme, killing power of the sword embryo. Then, the boundless surface of the sea collapsed, and a terrifying crack was formed. This was the deterrent power of the Supreme Tao. It tore apart the entire buried Emperor Sea, and a boundless crack was formed. The surface of the sea was split apart by the sword. The immortal slaying sword spewed out monstrous waves of killing intent, and the sword embryo spurted out. Buried Emperor Sea formed a maelstrom, and countless wasteland orders surged toward the immortal slaying sword. Su Yin engraved the Supreme Tao on the immortal slaying sword. It originated from destruction, and it bloomed as it interweaved. This kind of devouring and refining power was unparalleled in the world, and the majestic buried Emperor Sea suddenly became a little blurry. Su Yin took the opportunity to refine the immortal slaying sword. Without a doubt, it became stronger again, as if it had turned into a supreme weapon, killing millions and millions and tearing apart the heavens. Buried Emperor Sea is broken. In the depths of the wasteland, broken stars drifted, rivers and mountains were destroyed, and corpses were piled high. It was a tragic scene. The collapse of the buried Emperor Sea startled countless experts and directly affected the source of the ultimate war, one after another. Bastard! How can such an expert walk out of the celestial court? The Xian People's celestial emperor shouted angrily, and his eyes burned like giant torches. He saw immortal Emperor Zong, who was extremely majestic, like a supreme being that lived in legends. He wielded the immortal slaying sword and destroyed the buried Emperor Sea. My buried Emperor Sea. The reincarnation emperor was furious, and his eyes were about to burst. This buried Emperor Sea gathered the essence and creation of the wasteland ocean, and in the future it could drown the three realms and was formed by the Supreme Tao. This grand project should have suppressed the three realms long ago, but it was actually destroyed by the Tao Celestial Emperor, and the buried Emperor Sea was no longer under their control. However, after dealing with the broken sky monkey and the others, the buried Emperor Sea could still be restored to order. But now, immortal Emperor Zong cut the buried Emperor Sea and saw the shocking value of this ocean, and directly used the immortal slaying sword to swallow the essence of the buried Emperor Sea. Su Yin used the stealing heaven art to steal the endless divine treasures of the buried Emperor Sea, and the immortal slaying sword's evolution was ridiculous. It was surrounded by thick sword light, and cut open the river of time to see the eternal supreme, immortal and indestructible. Is that a supreme? Su Yin stood at his peak and looked like a quasi-utmost being. However, the indistinct supreme pressure that was emitted from him was enough to swallow the Emperor's Sea, causing their hearts to tremble. Could it be that another utmost being had walked out from the heavenly court? Kill! Battle cries rumbled, and the celestial court's army charged, covering the sky and earth, and stirring up an endless ocean of blood, forming a terrifying order of laws. They charged into the depths of the wasteland ocean through the crack of the buried Emperor Sea. Heaven and earth trembled, and an invincible lion came crushing over, causing the sky to collapse and the earth to crack. It was a shocking scene. The celestial court's army charged into the depths of the wasteland ocean, causing a huge uproar. The vast wasteland ocean rumbled violently. The celestial court's army's charge was too terrifying, and the other end of the buried Emperor Sea was covered in rivers of blood, and the emperors fell. It was incomparably tragic. This time, the celestial court's army was too sudden and broke through the buried Emperor Sea at a terrifying speed, forming a powerful charge. Our army is here. The broken sky monkey and the others roared. The battles in these years were too bitter, and the 10 supreme beings formed a monstrous formation, trapping them in a dangerous place, and the essence blood in their bodies was almost exhausted. They had really declined to the extreme, and in a few more years they would die at any time. Now, the celestial court's army was charging over, and the iron-blooded lion could be seen in a glance. In addition, the big brother and the others were charging over together, causing the war in the wasteland ocean to take a heaven-defying turn. The ultimate battle. I'm here. Immortal Emperor Zong roared, and the immortal slaying sword split open the buried Emperor's Sea, spewing out sword rays, and swept across the wasteland ocean. The powerful sword rays slashed over madly, slashing towards the supreme beings. In the past, Su Yin would face the most brutal battle against any quasi-supreme being. Now he had comprehended the supreme path, reconstructed his body, cut off everything, and lived another life. Old brothers, we're here. The Black King roared, and the hair on his body danced wildly. His body suddenly became huge, and his roar shook the sky, emitting a terrifying purgatory light, and the heaven and earth exploded as he charged towards the most powerful battlefield. One after another, the celestial court's most terrifying overlords charged madly into the most powerful battlefield. At the same time, the 5 million troops of the celestial court plowed through the courtyard and swept through the enemy's caves, madly charging all the way. The leading generals were bathed in blood as they roared. Annihilation in one battle. Brothers, charge, kill all the enemies, and pacify the source of chaos in the 3 realms. Kill. The 5 million troops drew their swords in unison, and the iron-blooded lions rumbled over, forming a terrifying tide of energy that covered a corner of the vile earth world. It's starting. The great battle has begun. The 3 realms were in an uproar. Even though they were very far away, the intense battle cries could still be heard. The buried Emperor's Sea collapsed, and the rolling sounds of battle pierced through the long river of time, showing the intensity of the battle. The people of the 3 realms were overwhelmed with emotions, anticipating their triumphant return. From the 3 realms battlefield to the immortal world to the dark world, the celestial court's grand battle plan was laid out, and the 3 realms were unified. Now, they were sending their troops to the depths of the vile earth world to participate in the ultimate bloody battle. Who's laughing? Suddenly, the people of the 3 realms were astonished. They were waiting nervously. However, one after another, the laughter echoed in their hearts, making them somewhat fearful and uneasy. The laughter came, and the 3 realms were at the banquet. The laughter became louder and louder, more and more spectacular, and more majestic. In the end, it caused the 3 realms to resonate, as if the 3 realms were pulsing at the same time. The celestial court only left the space-time emperor to oversee the overall situation. His expression was uncertain, and abnormally loud laughter resounded. No one knew the source, and no one knew the coordinates. It appeared so abruptly and ridiculously. What happened? Could it be that there were still enemies in the 3 realms that were hidden so deeply that they had not been discovered? The space-time emperor's breathing was heavy. Now that most of the celestial court's troops had left, once something happened to the three realms, it indicated that a terrible disaster would befall the three realms. Aha! The broken Three Realms mountain suddenly disappeared and turned into an old Taoist. He looked up to the sky and laughed, causing the wind and clouds to change color. The sun sank and the moon was destroyed. It was too wild. The laughter came one after another, shocking the people of the three realms. It bombarded the past, present, and future like a flood that crossed history. Heaven and earth were destroyed, the wind and clouds surged, and the world was in turmoil. As the old Taoist laughed, the three realms resonated. His figure also became majestic in an instant, as if he was the supreme ruler overlooking all living things. He laughed wildly and was extremely proud. "Master, what's wrong?" Su Siyu stared and found that the human emperor was trembling. He, who had always been calm, felt his hair stand on end. His eyes were filled with endless fear, as if he saw a ghost that had died billions of years ago blowing cold air on his neck. "Ah!" He roared, like a terrified beast growling. The human emperor's body was cold, and the blood in his body was about to stop flowing. He had never been so frightened and desperate before. In the end, he let out a series of sobs filled with pain. Reading House. Chapter 2207. You're too arrogant. You want to kill the 10 of us with one sword? What a joke. Even if you're supreme, don't think you can do that. Junior, you're still not enough. The supreme beings rebuked one after another. They were truly angered, and the deteriorating chi and blood in their bodies rumbled. Although they were riddled with wounds, and their chi and blood were deteriorating and were no longer in their prime, every one of them was emitting quasi-supreme energy waves, as if the 10 heaven-opening Saint Placentas were residing in the depths of the vile earth. These were the quasi-supreme beings, and their strongest combat strength was unleashed in a short period of time. Su Yan's sword light was quite domineering, majestic, and terrifying. It tore through the sky and instantly slashed down, directly slashing towards the 10 supreme beings. One sword to kill them all? One had to admit that Immortal Emperor Zhang's conviction was too strong. The immortal slaying sword released in unprecedented sharpness, and the moment it slashed towards the 10 supreme beings. Suddenly, the top of the 10 heaven-opening saints' heads spewed out a supreme luster of order, piercing through the universe and pouring into the 33 heavens. This was a shocking scene. The 10 supreme beings seemed to have merged into one, forming the 9 heavens and oceans, deducing the 10 ancient universes. They rumbled and rotated together, forming an extremely majestic layout. Heaven and earth exploded and was completely destroyed. This was a true cosmic catastrophe. The combat strength of the 10 supreme beings intertwined, deducing a supreme formation that smelted the universe. It could be said that the living supremes were going crazy, and the mysteries of the 9 heavens and 10 earths flowed out. Roar! The battered heavenly monkey and a series of heavenly court experts roared as they struggled with all their might. Looking from the outside, this was a battle prowess that would cause even quasi-utmost beings to tremble in fear. It was comparable to an utmost being performing unparalleled profundities here. But inside, they were actually facing a ridiculous massacre. It was as if the 9 heavens and 10 earths of the mythological era had been reconstructed, and endless power surged out, smelting the great world, causing the figures of Sky Monkey and the others to become blurry and dim. This was the 9 heavens and 10 earths formation. Once it was completed, it would seal the heavens and destroy the earth. All these years, Brother Monkey and the others had suffered too much in the 9 heavens and 10 earths formation. Once this formation was completed, they would be comparable to the Supremes, living in the 9 heavens and 10 earths purgatory, enduring endless oppression and killing. Thieving heaven! A world-shaking roar erupted. A giant with surging blood and chi roared. As the supreme purgatory great formation formed and crushed towards them with all its might, he awakened his most powerful fighting strength. Thieving heaven! You are still alive. Heaven's suppression shouted, crying tears of joy. Back then, when they were hunted down by the utmost beings, they thought that thieving heaven had fallen. To think that he had survived. Thieving heaven was indeed thieving heaven. He could even steal the great Taos of the heavens. He could even steal the origin source of the immortal world. The 9 heavens 10 earth formation dimmed a bit when this old Overlord roared. This was a type of extremely terrifying mighty force that exceeded the scope of human understanding. It could be said that the supreme path was developing the Tao, stripping away the vile earth world's energy. It was as if an endless hand was developing, drawing down a boundless mighty force to restrain the 9 heavens 10 earth's formation. There was no doubt that thieving heaven had bought precious time for Sky Monkey and the others to catch their breaths, allowing their rotting bodies to be nourished and emit powerful flames of life. Kill! The 10 supreme existences roared madly. The celestial court's attack was a great threat to them. Countless years had passed. They had always wanted to obliterate the celestial court lineage and kill them. Unfortunately, thieving heaven was overseeing the situation, stopping the fatal calamity many times. Now, the 10 supreme existences had gone mad. Their emperor's swords shot out from the top of their heads and burned fiercely. They were fighting with their lives on the line, burning their few sources of life to increase their battle prowess greatly. This caused the 9 heavens 10 earth formation's power to overflow the heavens, shooting out great Tao symbols that filled the sky. The broken stars in the heavens were destroyed, and the universe's sea of stars was instantly destroyed. This scene was too terrifying. One could imagine how powerful the power was. It was like the grand appearance of a universe, covering heaven and earth, about to suppress the 3 realms, about to cover the vast great world. 9 heavens 10 earth's formation kill. The 10 supreme existences roared, activating the supreme killing formation that filled the sky. This was the number 1 killing formation of the 3 realms since ancient times. The 9 heavens sea of stars appeared, and the 10 great heavenly realms opened. With the 10 supreme existences as the center of the formation, it rotated the universe, developing the 9 heavens and 10 earths. It was majestic to the extreme, so vast that it covered the past, present, and future. How long? In that instant, sword radiance that overflowed into the heavens slashed out. It was extremely powerful, causing the 9 heavens to distort and the 10 earths to tremble. Su Yan's sword played a crucial role, causing the 9 heavens and 10 earths to become unstable. No one could stop the flood of history kill. The 10 supreme existences roared, their auras berserk, possessing an unrivaled belief. They were like the 10 great destroyers of the world, instantly blocking immortal Emperor Zhang's sword radiance. Moreover, the 9 heavens 10 earth's formation reformed, suppressing the celestial court's bloodline. They all seemed to be born from the heavens. A hint of shock flashed through the depths of the Tao Saint Immortal's eyes. Could it be that they all came from the same source? Open. Suddenly, Su Yan roared loudly, his black hair fluttering about chaotically. The sword core in his hand shone, the origin reborn, extremely glorious. In an instant, it developed the ultimate great Tao, declining after reaching the peak, all living things destroyed, the 9 heavens and 10 earths about to be destroyed as well. This sword radiance was too terrifying. The ultimate deduction had finally developed the ultimate great Tao. However, the power of this sword was not due to the majesty of the ultimate great Tao. In fact, it was Su Yan's ultimate sword radiance. Billions of sword intents surged, tearing apart the river of time, violently cleaving a huge crack in the 9 heavens 10 earths formation while it was still unstable. Impossible. The 10 supreme existences' expression changed greatly. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. The 9 heavens 10 earths formation in the entire 3 realms was only controlled by them. This was the number 1 killing formation of the 3 realms since ancient times. There was almost no flaw in it. However, Su Yan directly cleaved open a flaw in its operation. This showed a cruel problem. Suyin also controlled the 9 heavens 10 earth formation. This was given to them by the human emperor. It played a major role in breaking the formation. Roar! A corner of the formation collapsed. Thieving Heaven and the others who had been trapped for a long time roared in unison. Blood gushed out and dyed the sky red. They were all in a terrible state. Their bodies were all skin and bones, dry and cracked. Their flesh was already dried up. Their lives were about to reach the end. Their bodies trembled. They could no longer stand steadily. After tens of millions of years of bloody battle, they were exhausted. All these years, they had only relied on the hot-bloodedness in their hearts to persevere until now. Now, with the arrival of the kings of the celestial court, they had relaxed. As if they were about to turn into Tao, their bodies were somewhat blurry and dim. But to them, persevering until this day, to see this moment, was enough. The 10 supreme existences roared angrily. The 9 heavens 10 earth formation was the final line of defense against them. Now that it had been broken, it was clear that the 10 supreme existences' minds were unstable, their emotions about to explode. How could this be? Boom! The 9 heavens 10 earths formation continued to explode. The blood in the 10 supreme existences' bodies churned. Their eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. They were mad with hatred. The number 1 killing formation of ancient times was actually controlled by the celestial court. It was a great humiliation. Wake up! Su Yin bellowed, releasing a series of supreme great Tao sounds that blasted into old man Zhang Tian's spiritual sea. Oh, master! Big Gold was shocked. What was going on? Why was there a bury the heavens here? And even the celestial tower in his control was the old master's life treasure. Bury the heavens, who was in control of the celestial tower, seemed to have gone mad. Su Yan's Tao sound was deafening, led by the human emperor Sutra and the sky-burying secret technique. Billions of heavy blows fell in a bury the heavens body. Boom! All of a sudden, majestic life imprints were awakened in old man Zhangtian's body. Layer after layer, they started to shine, try to drown his knowledge, see, and awaken the controlled old man Zhangtian. Roar! The next moment, bury the heavens growled in pain, his head about to explode. Waves of supreme treasure rose from the top of his head. It seemed to be a seal, suppressing his awakened life marks. His aura became violent again, emitting monstrous waves of ferocity. Su Yan's face darkened. Bury the heavens had been controlled. The supreme Tao had formed a powerful seal, controlling bury the heavens. It had to be said that this method was too shocking. No one would believe it if they heard about it. After all, this was the human emperor's Tao body. Although it wasn't his true body, it was still extremely powerful. He thought it through. The reason he controlled bury the heavens was all for the 9 heavens 10 earth matrix. Boom! Bury the heavens screamed, his eyes bloodshot. He threw the celestial tower in his hand, smashing it towards Su Yan. Su Yan's chi and blood boiled, and the golden light blazed. In an instant, he waved his fist and collided with the celestial tower. Some of the creatures were astounded. Just how strong was the kid's flesh? Su Yan dared to take the celestial tower head-on. His fist emitted a light that could split the heavens and earth apart as it collided with the celestial tower. A fierce storm was brewing. The celestial tower shook violently. It was knocked flying by Su Yan's punch. Bury the heavens was coughing out blood from the impact. He has touched the path of supremacy. The immortal emperors wore a dark expression. They were in disbelief that such a huge variable had appeared out of nowhere and originated from the 3 realms. The kings of the heaven court rushed forward and Big Black took out 3 9 revolutions creation pellets, causing the eyes of the reincarnation monarch and the others to turn red. The legendary 9 revolutions creation pellets were actually concocted by them. Heavenly Monkey and the others were extremely weak. 3 9 revolutions creation pills were not enough for everyone. As such, they had no choice but to break the creation pills in half. 6 of the pills went into their heads. The bodies of the peerless rulers that had fought for thousands of years were set ablaze. Their depleted life force was rejuvenated. The crippled heavenly monkey let out a roar. His skinny body shuddered as half of his severed arm grew out. A faint flame of life burst out. Even though the creation pills were not enough to fully recover them, the pills were extremely important to them. Their dried life springs were greatly nourished. Ha ha ha! They burst out laughing as they rose from the purgatory. Their crippled bodies were brimming with life force. Their hidden injuries were gone, and a part of their bodies had recovered. Asshole! The 10 great living beings were infuriated. The celestial court was unstoppable. The weakened divine gods of battle had recovered significantly. They once again displayed their terrifying strength. How were they supposed to fight the battle under such circumstances? Did they have no choice but to run for their lives? Su Yan's black hair drifted in the wind like a waterfall. His energy surged across the universe as he pressed forward. Bang! The universe was torn apart, and the heavens and earth of disaster exploded. A blood-red, sword embryo slashed across billions of galaxies. It was not the primary Tao that had ambushed immortal Emperor Zong in the past. It was the true form of the strongest sword embryo since ancient times. The sky exploded, and sword intents surged wildly. The sword embryo was utterly terrifying. It was emitting a destructive glow. Trying to kill me a second time? Su Yan pressed forward without backing away. The world-ending battle axe on his back buzzed softly. Su Yan's observation was shocking. The world-ending battle axe and the blood-red sword embryo must have come from the same source. Chapter 2208. The number 1 killing sword since ancient times. There were many legends regarding this object. Some said that it originated from the 3 realms. Some said that it originated from outside the 3 realms. Some said that it was a sword belonging to the highest being. This object's origins were rumored to be extremely ancient. There was no way to verify its exact origins, but had long become the supreme trump card of the ancestor of the 3 realms. This blood-colored sword core was filled with a type of great annihilation radiance. The space and time already starting to self-destruct, completely destroyed. This was a true, supreme great Tao. All life in the universe trembled. This sword was like a living supreme deity, releasing a grand annihilation sound, making them feel the urge to be annihilated along with it. This was the chanting of the great Tao's wondrous sound, the universe being annihilated along with it, all life being annihilated along with it. It was like a type of heaven's will, a type of fixed number. This was definitely a method only the highest being possessed, destroying a great world, terrifying to the extreme, impossible to resist. This was a ruler, a true supreme being. Kung Chang. The immortal killing sword in Su Yan's hand shone, his entire body standing at its peak state, chi and blood surging for millions and millions of li, the ruined vile earth world trembling along with it. Hong. The number 1 killing sword since ancient times hacked down, as if it was destroying the calamity born from the heavens. This was a type of great Tao derivation, supreme and supreme, impossible to transcend, unstoppable. It hacked open the great universe, slaughtering its way towards Su Yan. Su Yan rose from the ground, grasping the immortal killing sword, hacking towards the number 1 killing sword since ancient times. Hong Long. The 2 great killing swords collided, time and space fluctuating, time collapsing indistinctly, all things shattered into nothingness. The degree of terror was indescribable. This was the supreme order of natural laws, instantly completing the collision. The universe was destroyed, prosperity and decline, heaven and earth destroyed. This vile earth world walked towards its end, heading towards collapse, everything about to be destroyed. The 2 great sword cores carried scriptures, as if 2 supreme beings were colliding. Hong. In that instant, the number 1 killing sword since ancient times awakened, as if a supreme being was sleeping within, releasing extreme killing intent, tearing apart the great river of time, destroying everything, striking Su Yan's sword core until it flickered, as if it was about to explode. After all, how many years had it been since Su Yan's immortal killing sword formed? How could it contend against a number 1 killing sword since ancient times? In the blink of an eye, Su Yan roared. The world-exterminating battle axe hacked forward. The snow-white light overflowed into the heavens and was so dazzling that one's eyes were about to bleed. This giant axe exuded an extremely destructive power. The axe light blotted out the sky and filled the long river of time. The celestial ancestors' expression changed. What kind of artifact was this? It actually contained great destructive fluctuations, to the extent where it could even contend against the number one killing sword since ancient times. They clearly understood where this killing sword came from. It was a supreme treasure that was unmatched in the three realms. Kill! The Black King and the others rushed up. In the blink of an eye, the battle had reached its most intense state. This was a battle that belonged to the quasi-utmost beings. A monstrous battle erupted in the entire wretched earth. The flames of war burned fiercely, and the wretched earth that was bleeding continuously collapsed. The Battle of Armageddon was enough to be recorded in history and spread for billions of years. On the main battlefield, the world-exterminating battle axe released the light of great destruction as it clashed with the number one killing sword of ancient times. Kill! Su Yan roared. Axe after axe cleaved the great Tao, shattered space-time, and destroyed the heavens and earth. He hacked madly at the number one killing sword of ancient times. How tyrannical was Su Yan's combat strength? The number one killing sword of ancient times was not controlled by anyone. In a short period of time, the sword embryo was being hacked by Su Yan until it was humming. However, this killing sword was quite ridiculous. It didn't break at all. From this, one could see how sturdy it was. The more vicious the attacks were, the more powerful the ferocious aura of the number one killing sword of ancient times became. Vaguely, an extremely majestic shadow of destruction appeared. Break! Su Yan roared madly. The world-exterminating battle axe hacked madly forward. 18 consecutive attacks. The supreme great Tao of destruction looked down with disdain. The sword embryo hummed once again, and the illusory shadow of destruction that appeared was instantly destroyed. Su Yan's divine eyes were like lightning. He dominated the world of wretched earth. The world-exterminating battle axe revealed the supreme great Tao of destruction. In fact, Su Yan had only been able to unleash the most basic combat strength of the world-exterminating battle axe after he had figured out the supreme path. This was also one of the major reasons why the Tao Celestial Emperor's Tao body was able to send messages across spacetime not long after he took control of the world-exterminating battle axe. Kill! All of a sudden, a blood-stained giant hand reached out from the place where the heavens were bleeding. It was vast and boundless, covering everything. Utmost being. In the battlefield of quasi-utmost beings, the Great War ushered in a major turning point. The experts of the Celestial Court had joined forces. Several quasi-utmost beings had already been killed. Sky Monkey and the others were bathed in the blood of the utmost beings. Their recovery speed was getting faster and faster as they advanced towards their strongest era. Utmost being. The entire world was roaring madly. The tattered and bleeding hand crushed the entire sky of wretched earth to the point of being riddled with holes. Countless bloody holes were created. The long river of history was revealed, destroying the boundless sea of stars and carrying a matchless might of the heavens. This hand seemed to have extended from another universe. It crossed the endless years and was buried horizontally in the Emperor Calamity Earth, devouring all life. Thou Celestial Emperor, the Black King, and the others cried out in unison. Their eyes suddenly opened wide in anger. They could vaguely see that in that blurry and ancient broken world, a majestic figure stood tall. His heroic spirit was oppressive, shaking the long river of time. It was definitely Tao, Celestial Emperor. Unfortunately, the distance was just too far. That place should belong to the final destination of the wretched earth, an ancient world of great destruction. It involved an extremely complicated and cruel struggle. The great army of the Celestial Court roared, their emotions surging. They were infinitely close to Tao, Celestial Emperor, always at the final destination of the wretched earth. Han Long, the bleeding giant hand shone. It was so large that it was boundless, rushing out from the laws and order of the heavens. This was an extremely terrifying supreme power that came majestically, destroying all things between heaven and earth. It was going to cause a gap in history, causing millions and millions of years of space-time to become chaotic. The pressure was extremely strong, about to burn down the Emperor Calamity Earth and enter an era of great destruction. The Tao of destruction, the Tao of the extreme, the power released by the bleeding giant hand made the entire world despair. This was the Tao of the highest level. It was heavy, making all life feel powerless. This Tao was truly unfathomable. Boom! Su Yan's blazing body trembled fiercely, encountering an extremely powerful pressure. Blood flowed out from his mouth and nose, his body of flesh about to explode. Roar! In an instant, immortal Emperor Zong woke up. Boundless blood and qi surged, looking down on the heavens. His extremely glorious figure welcomed a great change, as if it turned into a supreme Tao law, interweaving with the Tao of destruction. The origin of all life, prosperity, destruction. The form of the Tao was completely deduced, flourishing to the extreme and declining to the highest. Immortal Emperor Zong entered his most powerful state. With a furious roar, heaven and earth turned upside down, the sun and moon sank. This boundless great world was about to collapse in front of him, undergoing destruction and reconstruction, advancing to another era of origin. The deduction of the Tao progressed to reincarnation, the rotation of life and death, the passage of millions and millions of years. At this moment, immortal Emperor Zong was powerful and unrivaled, blocking the supreme Tao of destruction emitted by the tattered giant hand. Slash! The tattered giant hand instantly grabbed the #1 killing sword since ancient times. This sword core was exceptionally resplendent, destroying time, space-time, the great world, all life, all things. Su Yin felt a chill down his spine, as if his body was about to break apart. He was astonished, truly feeling the supreme level of this sword core. He felt that it was not refined by the bleeding giant hand, but by someone else. This was because this destructive power had reached the pinnacle, as if it was about to tear apart a new order of the Grand Tao, moving toward a form that was even more supreme than the supreme. Kill! Su Yin roared, waving the world-extinguishing battle axe, and crazily attacked. Immortal Emperor Zong against the Supreme. One could imagine how amazing this was. The two great experts stepped into the great waves of history, withstanding the pressure of millions and millions of years to unleash an intense battle that shook the heavens and earth and made ghosts and gods weep. The buried emperor, vile earth trembled, bloody holes appeared in some areas. This kind of battle was too profound, the impact was too great, it was difficult to describe. Maybe it was going to suppress the ancient times, or maybe it was going to fight the ancient times. It was going to be a great battle that truly messed up the past, present, and future. Bastard! The destroyer who was holding the #1 killing sword was furious. He could not attack immortal Emperor Zong for a long time, so his words revealed his impatience. Because the entire world was shocked, the heavens were bleeding, the universe of destruction from the ancient times was covered in a sea of blood. That was the blood of the Supreme, drop after drop, destroying the reincarnation cycle, containing the supreme Tao of destruction. Each drop could create a life-forbidden zone, a land of death. Blood, the blood of the Supreme. The living creatures cried out in fear, feeling deeply uneasy. The ancestor of the three realms divided his strength to fight against immortal Emperor Zong. But could he stop Tao, Celestial Emperor? In the destroyed world, they saw Tao, Celestial Emperor, attacking fiercely. The ancestor of the three realms, the one who held the #1 killing sword since ancient times, his true body was bleeding. The three-headed and six-armed supreme body of destruction was trembling. Kill! The destroyed universe seemed to have exploded. Tao Celestial Emperor roared, boundlessly majestic. His blood and chi flowed. He was revered by the world. Someone saw the ancestor of the three realms' arm being torn apart by Tao Celestial Emperor, exploding in the destroyed universe. The ancestor of the three realms roared angrily. Immortal Emperor Zong broke some kind of balance. He was beginning to lose. He tried to summon the number one killing sword since ancient times to block Tao Celestial Emperor's fierce attack. But Immortal Emperor Zong was not a weakling. He raised his fist and punched forward, causing the ancestor's blood-stained hand to shatter, revealing eerie white bones, sticky with blood, about to be destroyed. Tao Celestial Emperor was terrifying beyond compare. He looked too young, standing above the heavens, looking down on the vast universe. He raised his fist and punched the sky, one punch after another, until a head was separated from the neck, rolling down and smashing into the world of woe. All the living creatures in the world were stunned. How could this be? They stared at the rolling head, still trembling in pain, but unfortunately, the true spirit had already been extinguished. Reincarnation Emperor cried out in despair. He was in so much pain that he wanted to die, rolling on the ground, hugging his head, feeling that his fate had been pierced through. How could this be? A wounded quasi-supreme roared, ancestor of the three realms. So you are the ancestor of the three realms. This was a ridiculous event that shook the universe. The three emperors' ancestor was the ancestor of the three realms. When they combined, they were the ancestor of the three realms. They had been deceived for too many years, thinking that they were following a supreme, but who knew that they were only following the three emperors' ancestor? Wasn't this too laughable? Ha. The three emperors' ancestors' eyes were filled with sorrow. They had lost, after all. The appearance of the second supreme broke the balance of the battlefield, and the legend of the ancestor of the three realms was shattered. The supreme great empress's expression was cold. The three emperors' ancestor they were facing were Tao bodies. They were the same as bury the heavens. Their descendants were the true human emperor, reincarnation emperor, heavenly emperor, and immortal emperor. The three emperors' ancestors Tao, seeking the supreme. The three combined into one, achieving the supreme, becoming an invincible living creature. They wanted to destroy the three realms together, but in the end, they could not stop fate. In the destroyed space-time, the ancestor of the three realms was blown up by Tao Celestial Emperor, turning into ashes and debris, indicating that they were also born and nurtured by the heavens. The soldiers of the world roared. Had they won? They looked at the destroyed universe, at Tao Celestial Emperor's blurry figure. Many reached out, wanting to grab something. Tao Tomb, Nine World Emperor, and the others cried out as they saw Tao Celestial Emperor's figure gradually dispersing into the light of the great Tao, dispersing in the destroyed universe. No, the soldiers of the world roared. They saw Tao Celestial Emperor dispersing into the Tao, about to disappear into the river of time. It's worth it to fight a supreme to death. The three emperors' ancestor laughed coldly, as if they had won this battle, and life had become extraordinarily exciting. Reading House, Chapter 2209. It was unknown how many eras and how many universe epochs had passed since the destruction of the ancient universe. The smell of blood permeated the air, turning it into a living hell. All kinds of destructive light and destructive power flowed, along with Tao, Celestial Emperor's killing order, turning it into a land of death. The three emperors' ancestor exploded, and his broken body was everywhere. This was their most primitive body, born and nurtured by the heavens. It was almost turned into a wasteland, wiped out by Tao, Celestial Emperor. This was an extremely cruel truth. This made the heroes who followed the three realms ancestor roar. They couldn't accept this, and their eyes turned red. Wasn't this too laughable? The three emperors' ancestor was the ancestor of the three realms. Three bodies combined into one. What kind of supreme was this? This unorthodox path had deceived everyone. Back then, when the three realms ancestor wanted to lead the three realms, he used the supreme path as a promise to bring in a powerful faction. Today, the truth was revealed. They couldn't believe it. However, this day seemed to be extremely cruel to the powerful celestial court. Tao Celestial Emperor's body shattered, turning into a rain of great Tao light that scattered between heaven and earth, forming a dreamy, great Tao radiance. The colorful rain of light soared and flew to the highest point of the destroyed universe. It seemed to have broken through the space-time node and flowed towards the unknown. Tao Celestial Emperor is back. The soldiers all over the world shouted. Their hearts were filled with anger. Could it be that Tao Celestial Emperor had fallen? Could it be that he had fought to the limit? Could it be that he could never return? The three emperors' ancestors' words were like heavy hammers, pressing down on Xing Tian and the others until they couldn't breathe. Boom! Su Yan's big hand stretched forward, and his strongest battle power erupted. He grabbed the number 1 killing sword of the ancient times. The Three Realms' ancestor was dead, and the imprint inside the killing sword was also disintegrating. Immortal Emperor Zong forcefully suppressed the killing sword of the ancient times. His deep eyes stared at the place where Tao Celestial Emperor disappeared, and he shouted coldly at the three emperors' ancestor. Ridiculous! What kind of opponent are you? You're just fighting against Tao Celestial Emperor's natural order. Once these words were spoken, the entire world trembled. This was especially the case for the several quasi-utmost beings who were followers of the ancestor of the three realms. They lost control and howled out. Su Yan's words had them unable to believe that all of this was real. They could not believe that Tao Celestial the Arch, who had fought with their leader for so long, was only a life Tao law. That was all. History is often too cruel. Everyone trembled, feeling as if their faith in life had collapsed. There was no value in living, only being toyed with by the enemy, as pitiful as ants. Bullshit! Three Emperor Ancestor glared at Immortal Emperor Zong and shouted, Nonsense! Tao Celestial Emperor is dead. He is turned into the Tao. This is an indisputable fact. Sky Monkey and the others frowned in contemplation. Back then, they had followed the buried Emperor Sea to the vile earth, where they had been hunted down by countless powerful enemies. The sudden appearance of the Tao Celestial Emperor back then was extremely sudden. It was as though he was here to help them block the calamity. After all, the battles involved were way too cruel. Back then, none of them were quasi-utmost beings. If what Su Yin said was true, then the existence that trapped Tao Celestial Emperor's true body was not in the three realms at all. What level of battle was that? Some people felt chills down their spines. Could there be an enemy that was even more terrifying than the utmost beings? There was one thing that could be confirmed. If Tao Celestial Emperor's enemy was not here, then the enemy that trapped him would be extremely terrifying, unable to return for tens of millions of years. Open for me. Su Yin waved the number 1 killing sword of the ancient times. Instantly, he tore a huge crack in space and time, penetrating into the destroyed universe. He charged into the center, charging into this world of blood that was constantly flowing with blood. This world was extremely dangerous. If the strongest emperors were to enter by mistake, they would not be able to live for long before turning into pus and blood. The battlefield of the utmost beings was filled with too much destructive order. Collect. Su Yin waved his sleeves and collected the remnants of the three emperor ancestor. Su Yin opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of Tao light, refining the remnants into a cauldron of utmost treasure liquid that was boiling with terrifying essence. Everyone in the world was scared silly. The remnants of the three emperor ancestor had been refined by a ruthless scum. Immortal Emperor Zong had even infused the essence of these utmost treasures into the immortal slaying sword, further refining it, raising its quality by quite a bit. Puff! The immortal emperors coughed out blood. They seemed to have gone mad as they roared continuously. Their most primitive and terrifying bodies had been refined into the immortal slaying sword by Immortal Emperor Zong. This was a great humiliation. The three emperor ancestors' heart was trembling, but what right did he have to struggle now? Too useless. Su Yin shook his head. He flicked his finger on the sword, causing it to emit waves of sword light. The three Emperor ancestors' face was twisted and ferocious. This was to disgust them. Each of them felt worse than eating a fly. In the next moment, Su Yin slashed out with the immortal slaying sword, slashing at the space-time node where Tao Celestial Emperor's Tao law had disappeared. A terrifying crack instantly appeared. The heavens fell and the earth cracked. The buried Emperor-vile earth seemed to be about to explode. Waves of annihilation surged out. It was so terrifying that one could only tremble. This was an irresistible, ferocious might that crushed the river of time. It was enough to change history, and its power was boundless. The level of the impact of this battle was difficult to describe. It was above history, above time, above the three realms. The battle there was exceptionally terrifying. The entire world was filled with huge cracks in history. Dense light of time rose from them, and they could easily cross the past, present, and future. The entire world was filled with bloody holes. That place seemed to be the real, celestial land of the three realms. It was a scene of devastation. Tao, Celestial Emperor, Blackie, and the others roared. The battle there was too bitter. Tao Celestial Emperor was fighting against two Supremes alone. He was once young and invincible. He was known as the Invincible Celestial Emperor. His divine might was unparalleled, and he would never decline. His domain was extremely powerful. Back then, he left the Celestial Court and went to the three realms. He became even stronger and stepped onto the path of supremacy. Then, Tao Celestial Emperor left the three realms and went to the vile earth. He came to the ultimate land and discovered a hidden mastermind. Even the ancestor of the three dimensions was unaware of this enemy that was lying in wait in the shadows, and he was completely kept in the dark. One could imagine that this was a giant who watched the ups and downs of the world. It was so terrifying that it was suffocating. The thousands of years of bloody battles were unspeakably bitter. Tao Celestial Emperor was not only fighting against two Supremes alone, but also the ancestors of the three realms. He had used up a strand of his essence. The battle was too bitter. He could not leave against three Supremes alone. If he suddenly split a strand of his divine will, it would easily break the balance of the battlefield. Many people shed tears. Tao Celestial Emperor's body was as thin as firewood. His hair was white, and he was no longer young and heroic. He was extremely old, and his back was bent. His losses were too great. He had used up all of his Supreme's essence. Of course, his enemies had also suffered heavy losses. The two Supremes were already skin and bones. They were on the verge of collapse and could die at any time. Of course, their battle level was too high. An instant of collision could kill millions of people, triggering a terrifying change in history. If such a battle happened in the three realms might have long ceased to exist. Master, the ancestors of the three emperors trembled and fell to their knees. His eyes were bloodshot and tears rolled down. Similarly, endless fear filled his chest. How could this be? The Supreme Empress fell to the ground. Her body was covered in white sweat. Her eyes were wide open, and her fists were clenched so tightly that her fingernails were broken. One could see how intense and violent her emotions were. One of the lightning creatures was the same. He howled in grief. How could this be? Sky Monkey and the others were shocked. What were they talking about? This was unbelievable. The ancestors of the three emperors, the Supreme Empress, the lightning creature, and Barry the Heavens all had the same master behind them. You really can play with the world. The short-haired Dark Emperor stared blankly at the two old Taoists who had declined to the extreme. She was trembling. Tai Baotsai's hair stood on end. It was as if he had turned into a giant hedgehog. He trembled as he lit a panda cigarette. His lips trembled as he took a deep puff to calm himself down. What kind of cosmic joke was this? Tai Baokai was terrified for a moment. Was this nonsense? The Dark Empress, the Human Emperor, and the ancestors of the three emperors all had the same master behind them. Then who was this old Taoist? The two Supremes were panting, and their faces were gloomy. The embarrassing scene presented itself in front of his disciples' eyes. He was extremely embarrassed, but more than that, he was cold. The Dark Empress had never seen her master show such an expression. What kind of existence was her master? He was the ancestor of the three realms, the ancestor of the Sky Splitter. He was boundless. He watched the ups and downs of the great world, traversing the long river of history. He was invincible in the reincarnation of heaven and earth. How could this be? The ancestors of the three emperors screamed. The master in their hearts had died long ago. But now, they saw with their own eyes that their masters were still alive. Although they were two old Taoist priests, they were both his masters because they were one. The reason they were united was that they wanted to walk the same path as their master. They hoped that one day they could become a supreme existence like their master. Su Yin sneered. The Chaos Giant's master was also him. This person's background was too great. Who would believe it if word got out? My good disciple, how could you forget about your master? Do you really think that your master would die so easily? Loud laughter suddenly sounded. An old Taoist with a big belly waving a feather fan slowly walked over. He seemed to be enjoying the world and seemed to be proud of himself. Every step he took was illusory, passing through the boundless world. He raised an auspicious cloud and appeared in the vile earth. Master, the ancestors of the three emperors knelt on the ground in disbelief. Their bodies were covered in sweat. He had hidden too deeply. They knew that their master had two great Dharma bodies. When they were united, they were one. When they were separated, they were also two bodies. However, they had never seen a third Dharma body. Bao Kai shook his big round head crazily. He felt that this matter was too crazy. Bao Kai looked at Su Yin and felt anxious. He wanted to piss. However, Bao Kai didn't see any nervousness on Su Yin's face. Could it be that Su Yin had already seen through everything? My good disciples, return to your positions. Suddenly, he waved his feather fan and pointed at the ancestors of the three emperors. The three trembling quasi-supremes who were kneeling on the ground suddenly distorted their bodies, forming three torrents of energy that shot towards the pot-bellied old Taoist. No, master, no. The ancestors of the three emperors were terrified. Their primordial spirits were trembling. They wanted to rush into the heaven-splitting ancestor's stomach. Don't, master! They were in despair. The reincarnation emperor had already been swallowed. The celestial race's celestial emperor cried out in grief and indignation. Your disciple has served you with all his heart. Why are you treating your disciple like this? Although your disciple has done something wrong, it doesn't deserve death, master. Please spare my life, master. Your disciple is still willing to stay by your side and serve you for millions of years. Silly boy, what nonsense are you talking about? You are all my disciples. As long as you don't go against me, I can forgive you. However, now is the time for you to return to your positions. Don't ruin my plan. Everything must be done for the sake of the big picture. The old Taoist waved his feather fan, burped, and swallowed the celestial emperor. The earth immortal was terrified. It would also be eaten directly. You are all companions. Celestial Emperor Zong replied. The 10 heaven-splitting beings and the 10 heaven-splitting scriptures were born together with the heavenly embryos. Since they have matured, it's time for the main body to pick the ripe fruit. Many years ago, Su Yin observed the three-world mountain and deduced the heaven-splitting palm. He had seen some clues, and now that he had received confirmation, he felt a chill in his heart. This old monster was too ruthless. Oh, there's actually such an outstanding person who can see the clues. The old Taoist laughed and glanced at Su Yin. Little 11, you're not bad yourself. Back then, I nurtured the 10 heavenly embryos and gave you a greater chance. Unfortunately, I can't wait any longer. Strictly speaking, you should call me father. You're tired of living. Su Yan's eyes widened in anger. His blood was boiling with anger. Impudent! How dare you be rude to master? The celestial race's ancestor was furious. He pointed at Su Yin and scolded. Master's magic power is boundless, and his divine abilities are vast. With a light wave of his feather fan, your body and soul will be destroyed. Celestial Emperor Zong, quickly kneel down and kowtow to admit your mistake. Chapter 22:10. Suyin glared at him and coldly shouted, "Scram!" Poof! The ancestor trembled. This angry shout contained a great pressure that made it hard for him to breathe. He coughed out a mouthful of blood as his body trembled. Immortal Emperor Zong, you are not far from death. The ancestor was not afraid of Suyin at all. He knew what kind of existence his master was. Even Big Brother was losing his cool. What era was this old geezer from? His tone was so arrogant that it could break the sky. At the same time, Big Brother was also panicking. This old geezer's background was truly frightening. The three realms were only pebbles in his palm. The ancestors of the Xian people were not pitiful ants that could be toyed with in the palm of his hand. If the Tao Celestial Emperor didn't see through this in the past, the consequences would have been unimaginable. The three realms would have been destroyed a long time ago, and all living beings wouldn't even have the right to struggle. This was a battle between invincible overlords that could overlook the river of history. Oomph! The old Taoist snorted coldly. Heaven and earth rumbled, and the great world was destroyed. All living beings in the universe were in a daze. They were dizzy as if they had found a place to return to and were about to enter the cycle of reincarnation into his stomach. The soldiers in the sky roared. They were murderous soldiers that had been on the battlefield for a long time, so they had strong willpower. They were not weak in front of the old Taoist's slight display of power. However, there was no doubt about his strength. He had just affected the entire burial Emperor Vile Earth. Big Brother and the others were facing a great enemy. This old geezer was unfathomable. This kind of person was even more frightening than the evil ghosts that had been nurtured for billions of years. Buzz! The old Taoist gently waved his feather fan, wanting to let Suyin enter his stomach to further perfect himself. However, when he waved his feather fan, Suyin did not react at all. The ancestor's expression stiffened as he continued to roar. Master's magic power is boundless, and his abilities are vast. With a wave of his sleeve, you, Immortal Emperor Zong, will die for sure. The Baokai was enraged. Its nose was crooked from anger. This dog kneeled down and licked in order to survive while shouting vulgarities. Did he still have the demeanor of a supreme? It was too disgusting. The old Taoist fanned the feather fan again. This fan seemed to be able to stir up the 9 heavens and 10 earths and destroy everything. Unfortunately, Suyin was unscathed. He was still standing in front of them with a calm expression. The old Taoist could no longer maintain his composure. He suddenly pointed his feather fan at the Supreme Empress and waved it, telling her to return. The body of the Supreme Empress trembled. It was somewhat blurry and dark, as if it was going to disintegrate in an instant. The Empress let out a cry of pain and instantly understood what was going on. The scriptures they cultivated were all passed down by their master. With just a thought from the old Taoist, their bodies and souls would be instantly destroyed. This was too cruel. From the moment they were born, the old Taoist had been planning for this day. Big Black felt a chill run down his spine. This old thing was scheming against the world. Did he feel that he was too lonely after being invincible? Ha ha! Master is invincible and his magic power is boundless. With a light wave of his feather fan, the 3 realms are destroyed. The ancestor of the heaven ancestors roared madly. He was kneeling down and licking crazily. Similarly, the terror of his master made him tremble once again. He could no longer bear any resentment in his heart. Only reverence was left as he knelt down and bowed down in worship. As allies of the ancestor of the heaven ancestors, they felt a chill run down their spines. They felt ashamed. This group of people who were able to become supreme had monstrous boldness. If they lost, so be it. They wouldn't say a single word. But the ancestor of the heaven ancestors had already gone mad. However, they would rather die than become pigs and dogs. However, the Supreme Empress only trembled a few times before she returned to normal. Her ice-cold eyes were filled with endless coldness, and there was even a trace of complete disappointment in them. In the past, in their hearts, their master was worthy of respect. He had nurtured the 10 heaven-opening life forms, created all living beings, and established the prosperity of the 3 realms. But who would have thought that in the end, it would be in such a state? They were all companion life forms that had to return to the main body to nurture their master's third physique. Don't waste your energy, Su Yin sneered. He had long severed everything. Moreover, he had comprehended a brand new path. Although Su Yin had cultivated the 10 heaven-opening scriptures, he had completely walked his own path on the Supreme Road. As for the Supreme Empress, her true fate had already been changed by the 9 Revolutions creation pill. She was no longer an Earth immortal, nor was she the ancestor of Earth immortals. The old Taoist face was somewhat gloomy. He didn't expect that his trick would be broken. He had proudly appeared in the world and played with all the living beings in the world. What he didn't expect was that he would lose again and again. He was somewhat embarrassed. He was like a supreme emperor who was suddenly disobeyed by his subordinates. One could imagine how angry he would be when he descended. "Master, you?" The ancestor of the Celestial's face was somewhat stiff. "Evil disciple." The old Taoist's eyes emitted a cold luster as he waved his feather fan at him. "No, master, don't." The ancestor of the heaven ancestors cried out miserably. He couldn't resist the summoning power at all. His body was torn apart, turning into a heaven-opening stream of light that flowed through the old Taoist's stomach into his body. "Master, you dog, I don't want to see you anymore." In the end, the ancestor of the heaven ancestors' mournful roar made Bao Kai almost burst out laughing, but his face was more solemn. With 3 people entering his body, it was clear that the old Taoist's aura was faintly more terrifying. Blackie's bell-sized eyes widened in fear. This old ghost was too terrifying. He killed the 10 heaven-opening creatures just like that. He was the supreme ruler of the 3 realms. "Master, 8th junior brother and 6th senior brother were eaten by you, right? How can you be so ruthless? Why did you nurture us? Why did you let us know the truth? Why?" At this moment, the Dark Emperor cried out in grief and indignation. Her eyes were about to split open, unable to accept the blow. The ancestor god of heavenly strength and the ancestor god of heavenly soul were their disciples, and they were also the pillars of the dark world. "Silly disciple, you've changed." The pot-bellied old Taoist sighed and said, "Emperors are heartless by nature. I want to surpass the highest and step onto an even greater path. The path of the strong is one that defies the heavens. These are all methods and can't be said to be ruthless. Don't you understand? But you're too ruthless." The Dark Emperor pointed at the old Taoist, her heart filled with grief and indignation. She sobbed and said, "The 10 of us became enemies because of your disappearance. You created our lives, so it seems that you can also guide us to good and evil. The 10 of us have different personalities, so it's all related to you, but you want to play with the world. Why did you let us know the truth? Why, Master?" The Dark Emperor's primordial spirit was about to explode. She was really mad. Her body was pale and powerless, trembling and almost unable to breathe. It was incomparably oppressive and suffocating. "Bastard, who taught you this?" The old Taoist was furious. "Being invincible is so lonely," Su Yin said sarcastically. "Be on your way." The old Taoist looked at Su Yin with his cold eyes and waved his sleeve. The scene was extremely terrifying. Boom! The number 1 sword and the number 1 axe since ancient times. The 2 supreme true treasures, destruction and destruction, were instantly awakened and rippled with world-destroying waves. The 2 supreme true treasures exploded beside Su Yin in a short time and evolved 2 supreme laws to kill. They represented destruction and destruction, and they slashed toward Su Yan's body. "Oh no, Su Yan, be careful." Blackie's expression changed drastically. This old man was unfathomable. No wonder the Tao Celestial Emperor and his 2 bodies had fought for so long without a winner being decided. "You killed me so easily. Do you think you have everything under control?" Su Yin shouted angrily. He reached out his hand and grabbed the destroyer battle axe. At the same time, the celestial slaying sword slashed and blocked the number 1 killing sword since ancient times. The supreme true treasures betrayed one side. This was a fatal crisis for any great being. They could easily be killed instantly. But Suyin had seen through everything. He was already prepared. The old Taoist's expression darkened. The two true treasures were his life items. The Destroyer Battle Axe was a part of the strongest third body he wanted to develop, but the Destroyer Battle Axe was not listening to him. Destroyer Battle Axe, come. The old Taoist waved his hand and called for the Destroyer Battle Axe. He wanted it to fly into his body and reassemble. Only then could it be truly complete. The Destroyer Battle Axe roared and released a strong destructive wave. It turned to the old Taoist and Su Yin at times. This made the old Taoist furious. He shouted, "Destroyer Battle Axe, come, come, come." His body was infinitely blazing, releasing an unbelievable source of power. It was filled with endless destructive light of order. It gushed out from his mouth and nose, forming the sound of the great Tao calling for the return of the Destroyer Battle Axe. Su Yan's hand held the Destroyer Battle Axe tightly. The axe was vibrating violently. Even so, the Destroyer Battle Axe still could not fly out. Su Yan looked at the pot-bellied old Taoist with cold eyes. He shook the Destroyer Battle Axe, and an old woodcutter walked out. Everyone in the world roared because a fourth old Taoist had appeared. However, this woodcutter's expression was completely different from the old Taoist. He was indifferent and aloof. He frowned and said, "You are too fierce. You should transform into the Tao and disappear." "Well said." Blackie shouted angrily in his heart. There was nothing they could do. This old ghost was too fierce. It made them sweat all over. Kindness. The old Taoist expression was cold. When he created the three-world mountain, his goal was to create a body of destruction. However, he did not expect that the kindness that he forced out was not completely eliminated. The woodcutter was formed by kindness. He glared at the old Taoist and asked him to transform into the Tao and disappear, never to come back. The Dark Monarch felt much better. His master's body was a body formed from the most terrifying evil thoughts. There was no kindness in it, only an endless source of evil. This was also the great Axe's Tao of destruction. I didn't expect that in the end, my own son would be my enemy. The old Taoist sighed softly. "Master, you have lied to us all our lives, but what does immortal Emperor Zong have to do with you?" Human Emperor walked over. He regained his calmness and turned into a supreme king with a merciful heart that encompassed the world. His supreme aura rippled as he looked down on the world. "My first disciple is here." The old Taoist looked at Human Emperor with admiration and said, "You are my most perfect masterpiece. You are more like an emperor than anyone else. You have a merciful heart that looks down on the world and opens up the glory of the human world. You are the disciple that I am most satisfied with." Tai Baotsai's hair stood on end. The old geezer was truly frightening. He had nurtured the 10 heaven-opening spirits and created the 10 heaven-opening scriptures. At the same time, he had changed the characters of the 10 heaven-opening beings. It had to be said that this old geezer was truly skillful. The day the Three Worlds Mountain was destroyed should have been the day we all died. Human Emperor was very calm. He cut off the past and coldly said, "But the Three Worlds Mountain collapsed. There was a big problem with your Tao that caused the 9-colored embryo to almost be destroyed. Human Emperor was taken away from the Three Worlds Mountain by the 9-colored embryo on the day of the collapse of the mountain. All this time, he thought the Three Worlds Mountain was facing a great disaster. He didn't expect his master's Tao to fail. But Su Yin is different. He is different from us. He was born in the buried sky grotto at the top of the 33rd heaven. He has nothing to do with you." Human Emperor said, "The current immortal Emperor Zong has cut off everything and started anew. He has nothing to do with you." The old Taoist expression turned cold again. Human Emperor's words were like pearls with righteousness. He shouted, "You are an evil spirit. You should become the Tao and disappear. You should no longer exist in this world. Treacherous disciple, I will destroy you." The old Taoist's eyes opened wide. He was truly angry. He turned into the most terrifying evil spirit in the Three Worlds Mountain. He raised his hand and attacked Human Emperor. "Get out of my way!" Su Yan roared. He raised his fist and deduced the origin and the Tao of destruction. He suddenly attacked the old Taoist hand. The palm and fist collided. The world exploded. Su Yan's fist imprint was torn into pieces. It was a tragic sight, but it was still strong. The undying and indestructible scripture reconstructed a complete body. He roared, "Do you understand?" The primal chaos giant fell. He was kind, righteous, and honest. He could see through people's hearts the best. He could see that you were harboring evil thoughts and did not give the undying and indestructible scripture to you. Otherwise, you would have succeeded a long time ago. Human Emperor was furious. He clenched his fists and roared to the sky. The Chaos Giant was his junior brother. He could only be called his master's disciple in name. He died even more miserably. He was killed directly. However, the Chaos Giant had been hiding the immortal, indestructible scripture. He sealed himself and didn't show it. Dark King also felt that his junior brother should be happy. He didn't see his master in the end. It was good that he died. Little 11, you are too presumptuous. No one has ever dared to talk to me like this. The old Taoist's eyes emitted the light of purgatory. He walked towards Su Yan and said coldly, "Do you think you are supreme just because you have comprehended the supreme technique? There is only one supreme in the three realms. There is only one ruler, and that is me. Anyone who goes against me will not live. Is it the loneliness of being invincible?" Su Yan pointed at the sky-splitting ancestor and shouted, "You have lost your nature. You want to destroy the three realms with your evil thoughts. You should kill yourself to atone for your sins. How dare you, evil creature? Kill." The old Taoist expression was cold. His eyes emitted the light of purgatory. His aura became unstable. His body emitted an endless source of destruction that shook the world. Qi, the world's #1 killing sword, suddenly became more terrifying. It suppressed the immortal slaying sword until it lost its light. At the same time, his hand reached out. It was huge and boundless. It covered the buried Emperor Vile Earth and extended to the destroyed world where Su Yan was. He wanted to smash it with one slap. Reading House. Chapter 22:11. The hand of destruction blotted out the sky, making the buried Emperor Vile Earth seem tiny. Everyone in the universe trembled and screamed in fear. How strong was this old Taoist? One had to know that the third body of destruction was not considered complete in the true sense of the word. Then, how terrifying were the two avatars that the old Taoist and Tao Celestial Monarch were. Tao Celestial Monarch and his two avatars had been fighting for millions of years. It was imaginable how much hardship they had to endure. The destruction of the three worlds will not be tolerated by the billions of living beings. A great fortune will be born. So, Su Yan will not be defeated. Su Yan's black hair danced like a waterfall. He looked abnormally strong as the destruction universe rumbled. The Supreme Tao was presented as if he was performing the complete reincarnation of a great world. The old Taoist's big hand was terrifying. It pressed down on the dilapidated universe until it trembled violently. It pressed down on Su Yan's Tao technique until it collapsed into bloody holes one after another. His combat strength was too peerless. Moreover, his true body had directly crossed over. No one can stop my might. The pot-bellied old Taoist walked towards the destruction universe and unleashed the Tao of destruction to destroy Su Yan. Rumble! It was a shocking scene. The sky was filled with destruction in the form of lightning, myriad spirits, and origin. They all came crashing down and drowned immortal Emperor Zong. This was the supreme order of the Tao Law, a bloodbath that would annihilate the three worlds. "Old geezer, I'm going to kill you." Su Yan roared at the sky. His body was pushed to its peak state in an instant. From its peak to its destruction, it also emitted endless destructive light. His flesh and blood primordial spirit merged into one, and a supreme fluctuation spread out. At this moment, Su Yan's figure was blurry and gloomy. It was as if he had disappeared into the long river of history and the three realms. His body was filled with rage as he swung his fist and smashed the old Taoist law of strength that was crushing down. Immortal monarch Zhang's vast blood energy drowned the destruction universe. This universe was also being reshaped by his Tao of order, deducing the origin of the universe. His figure looked extremely majestic, like an invincible heavenly monarch. Su Yan, kill him! Black King roared as he lost control of his emotions. The situation was very clear. Tao Celestial Monarch was fighting the old Taoist. The two supreme Tao Celestial Monarch were fighting fiercely in an unreachable time and space. Immortal Monarch Zong was fighting the old Taoist's third Tao Celestial Monarch. This was a battle of life and death. If there was any power that broke the balance of the battlefield, it would affect the three worlds. Speak, what kind of damn thing is the heaven-splitting ancestor? Big Black asked impatiently. Currently, there was still a lightning creature alive. Old Five. Human King was so angry that he felt as if his guts were going to explode. He was the one who valued emotions the most. The 10 sky opening spirits had turned against each other because their teacher had affected their personalities. When the three-world mountain collapsed, they all thought their teacher had died. That was why the battle of the three realms started. The thunder creature screamed, "What's the point of right and wrong? Master wants to go against the heavens. He wants to destroy the three worlds. He wants to walk the path of invincibility that doesn't exist in legends. Who can stop him? Surpassing the Supreme? Does it really exist?" Big Black trembled. Were the Supreme not the most powerful? No one could say for sure. Maybe it existed. Maybe it didn't, because no one had ever come into contact with such an existence. Tao Celestial Monarch had two Tao Celestial Monarch. One was called Destroy. The other was called Yongchang. When the three-world mountain collapsed, the three worlds were in chaos. Why was it so chaotic? Because the three-world mountain was created by Tao Celestial Monarch. Once the three-world mountain collapsed, it meant Tao Celestial Monarch had died. What kind of existence was he? He was a real, invincible giant. He was a giant that watched history go up and down. He lived in legends and history. He had been chasing the ethereal path. He wanted to become stronger. That was why he wanted to destroy the three worlds. Unfortunately, he failed. After waiting for a long time, he finally found hope. He thought he could call it a day. Who knew that Tao Celestial Monarch would appear and block his two Tao Celestial Monarch? Now that things had dragged on to this step, who would have thought that Immortal Monarch Zong would step into the Supreme Realm? Kill. The terrifying bloody battle was hard to describe. It was hard to observe from a close distance. Tao Celestial Monarch's battlefield was too far away. Everyone couldn't see the whole picture. However, the battle that destroyed the universe was shocking. The 33 layers of heaven exploded. Blood rained down on the world. The two destructive laws collided with each other. Su Yan fought crazily. His monarch blood boiled. He had just stepped into the Supreme Realm, so it was hard for him to reach a balance with the old Taoist Tao Celestial Monarch. This battle was very difficult for Su Yan. He was bathed in blood. His terrifying battle strength was ignited continuously. He pushed the order of scriptures into the sky and fought against the Tao Celestial Monarch. Boom! The old Taoist waved his sleeves. The universe of destruction disappeared. It was like an immeasurable calamity. Open the world, destroy the world. Su Yan put his arms together and chanted the voice of the Tao. His words were followed by the law. The universe bloomed and welcomed the great destruction. The first sword since ancient times slashed at Su Yan's head. Su Yan's eyes widened. The world-destroying axe was unsheathed and charged forward. The two peerless weapons clashed. Heaven and earth were destroyed. Dong, dong, dong. The two giants with auras that could devour the 9 heavens and 10 earths roared. Their fist imprints collided, and in a short period of time, they exchanged over 100 blows, shaking the universe until it collapsed, forming a destructive great vortex. Even the long river of time evaporated. Su Yan's fist cracked. It was a tragic sight. Half of his body was trembling violently. However, he wasn't afraid. The complete, immortal, and imperishable scripture caused the monarch blood in his body to leak out. He healed his injuries in an instant and released an even stronger battle strength. He raised his fist and punched forward. Immortal and imperishable, the old Taoist's eyes released a gloomy coldness. Of all living things in the three realms, only I am immortal and imperishable. Everyone else is fake. Old ghost, your tone is too arrogant. Are you not scared that the heavens will explode? Su Yan's blood-dyed hair danced about. He raised the world-destroying axe and roared, I will slaughter you. You alone don't have the qualifications to stop me. Let's end this. In an instant, the old Taoist took a step forward. He was completely different now. He was at the peak of the world, as if he walked out from the river of legends. Step after step, he released an unrivaled and unmatched might. This was an aura that immediately shocked all living things under the heavens. At this moment, the old Taoist could be considered the number one supreme being since ancient times. He looked down on the common people and destroyed the three realms. Scatter, he shouted, judging Su Yan's true fate. With a single step, the heavens collapsed. It was even more majestic than the apocalypse. The river of history unfolded. Terrifying fluctuations erupted, instantly connecting the past, present, and future. This old monster is too heaven-defying. Blackie roared crazily. It saw a terrifying scene. The old Taoist transformed into the number one supreme being since ancient times. He grasped the flow of time and reincarnation, reversing the river of time. His figure seemed to have crossed the river of millions and millions of years, returning to the place where Su Yan was born. Terrifying changes in history. The sorrowful roars from millions and millions of years ago resounded. His large hand seemed to have crossed the great waves of millions and millions of years, returning to the place where Su Yan was born. An unimaginable large hand pressed down, starting to suppress the 33rd heaven's heaven-burying cave. What kind of heaven-defying method was this? It was world-shaking and unrivaled. With a raise of a hand, the river of history collapsed, slaughtering its way towards the place where Su Yan was born. It was going to obliterate him before he was born. The people of the world could vaguely see Su Yan's body trembling. It was as if he was going to collapse and completely shatter. Heavens! The entire world was terrified. Wasn't this too heaven-defying? Tai Bao Kai and the others felt their hair stand on end. They truly felt that this was inconceivable. Reversing the river of time, slaughtering his way towards the Su Yan of millions and millions of years ago. All living beings were in despair, their hearts filled with powerlessness. Who could stop him? Once his three great magical bodies converged, would the Tao Celestial Emperor be able to stop the ancestor of the three realms? However, what was shocking was that this large hand crossed the river of time. The instant it was about to crush down on the great era of heaven-burying cave, everything became blurry. It became dark and distorted, extremely unreal. His large hand seemed to have struck the void, unable to find any traces of Su Yan. Hong! Suddenly, Su Yan raised his fist and smashed over. The world-destroying axe suppressed the number one sword of ancient times. A terrifying fist imprint smashed towards the old Taoist. He used great magical force to pierce through the river of time, but he encountered a terrifying obstruction. A nine-colored heavenly coffin was floating in the river of time, obscuring the mysteries of heaven. It was unstoppable. Pooh! The old Taoist couldn't defend himself. He was struck by immortal Emperor Zhang's fist. A large mouthful of blood sprayed out from his mouth and nose. His chest even ruptured. Bastard! The old Taoist cried out in pain. His true spirit was almost blasted out by Su Yan. Changed, everything had changed. He could reverse the river of time and rewrite some things. He sat and watched the ebb and flow of time, looking down on all living beings. Any existence that threatened him couldn't survive. But Su Yan was different. The Tao Celestial Emperor was different. Karma was involved with the three heavenly coffins, obscuring the mysteries of heaven and obstructing his exploration. Otherwise, in the vast history of the three realms, there wouldn't be any variables that were out of his control. All variables must be eliminated. The old Taoist expression was cold. Any factor that went against his control must be destroyed. Kill. Su Yan roared. Punch after punch, he attacked the old Taoist fiercely. In an instant, billions of fist imprints exploded, wanting to penetrate the old Taoist body of destruction. End it all. The old Taoist roared in rage. The destruction of the three realms is a foregone conclusion. I think it is better to start early. Little 11, I am too lazy to compete with you. The moment he said that, the three realms on the other side of the burial Emperor Vile Earth were suddenly wrapped up by the laws of the world. This was the old Taoist power that covered the entire three realms. Three realms returned to one, forge my invincible body, reform the reincarnation cycle. The old Taoist roared, and the heaven-moving palm exploded. The laws of order appeared and operated the three realms. The world sacrificed to complete the old Taoist path. Roar, he wants to refine the entire three realms to death. This old poison is too vicious. He wants to wipe out all living beings in the three realms. Everyone trembled. All living beings in the three realms were about to fall into the cycle of life and death. The world was filled with the sound of worship. However, the moment this storm reached its peak, Su Yan's body of faith appeared. He controlled the three heavenly coffins and suppressed the dark world, the human world, and the celestial world. The three realms that were about to be activated were suppressed by the three heavenly coffins. Bastard, the three heavenly coffins spoiled my plans. The old Taoist was furious. His plan had been completely seen through. The Heaven Emperor sent a message across time to inform Su Yan of the important clue. The reason why the Heaven Emperor was so careful back then was because he was worried that his third Dharma body would see through it. Su Yan had been hiding it all this time and never said anything. At the crucial moment, he used the three heavenly coffins to suppress the fate of the three realms. Su Yan roared, Old Ghost, what other moves do you have? No more, right? Come out and fight if you die. Billions of fist imprints filled the air and merged into one to attack forward. Chapter 22:12. The universe crumbled as the supreme fist struck forward. He was invincible. The old Taoist suddenly became incomplete and his path deviated from his expectations. However, there was no doubt that this person was terrifying. His fist glowed with the grand Tao of destruction and unleashed a supreme secret technique toward Su Yan. No one can stop me, the old Taoist roared. He was the heaven-splitting ancestor who controlled the fate of the three realms. A short failure didn't discourage him. Moreover, Immortal Zong, who had just matured, wanted to stop his attack. Dream on. Kill. The old Taoist finally roared. His body of destruction was so terrifying that even the river of time and space collapsed. In an instant, he arrived in front of Su Yan. Along the way, a terrifying primordial spirit of destruction flowed and smashed towards Su Yan's head. This fist was extremely terrifying. The fist imprint turned into a heavenly blade, wiping out primordial spirits, hacking apart true spirits. Old Ghost, your tone is too arrogant. Be careful that you don't get killed by me. Su Yan roared toward the sky. His flesh blazed as more and more of his grand Tao appeared. There was no primordial spirit in his sea of consciousness. To be more precise, Su Yan's primordial spirit and flesh shell had fused into one. He was the primordial spirit, and the primordial spirit was the body. Su Yan let go of his limbs and unleashed his moves. With his body and soul intact, Su Yan had nothing to fear. There was also no power that could instantly kill Su Yan. After reconstructing his body and severing everything, Su Yan finally stepped onto the path of supremacy. Of course, Su Yan's path hadn't reached the peak yet. However, the heaven-splitting ancestor's third Tao body was extremely similar to Su Yan's path. He wanted to use this chance to train himself. This battle was exceptionally terrifying. This was a battle between supremes. No expert could help. The battle was intense. Blood flowed from the sky. The buried Emperor Vile Earth trembled and the mountains shook. The Celestial Court's troops retreated and returned to the Celestial Court. They couldn't calm down. The battle was still going on. No one knew how long it would last. Only a group of quasi-supremes remained in the buried Emperor Vile Earth to observe the battle. Rumble! The roar that originated from the long river of history surged into the sky. The burial Emperor Vile Earth's territory collapsed and turned into a land of destruction, a forbidden zone of the present era. This battle continued for over 100 years without ending. None of them had expected things to reach this point. This also made Big Black and the others feel at ease. This meant that the heaven-splitting ancestor had no other choice but to fight a bloody battle with Su Yin. 100 years. Su Yin roared. His body was riddled with wounds. If not for the undying and imperishable scripture, he would have been blasted apart many times already. He made it through again and again, fighting a bloody battle against the heaven-splitting ancestor's destroyed body. This one wasn't having a good time either. Its body was a bit tattered, and it spat out destructive light that swept towards Su Yin. The longer the battle dragged on, the closer they were to Tao, Celestial Emperor's battlefield. Su Yin tried his best to stop them. For the past 100 years, the old Taoist had been trying to cross into Tao, Celestial Thearcha's battlefield world. After all, there were 2 of his Dharma bodies inside. Once the 3 Dharma bodies gathered, the battle would be extremely difficult to fight. Look! At this moment, Sky Monkey cried out in excitement. Tao Celestial Emperor's battlefield had undergone a major change. Back then, he had fought 3 supreme beings, and that strand of Tao law of order had returned to his body. Tao Celestial Emperor's body suddenly withered, and there were bloody holes all over his body. However, despite his old age, he was still domineering in the universe. He brandished his Celestial Emperor fist, and one of the Dharma bodies almost exploded. The river of time rumbled as the heaven-splitting ancestors' 2 Dharma bodies burned fiercely. They were actually combining, fusing together, and the illusion of life and death became even more terrifying. The roar caused the universe to explode as Tao Celestial Emperor fought a bloody battle. Kill! Tao Celestial Emperor roared, and his Celestial Emperor fist shook the universe. The remnant blood in his body boiled, forming a sea of stars. He majestically turned into a god of creation, carrying with him an unparalleled heavenly might, unparalleled struggle for supremacy. The river of history was in chaos, and the river of time collapsed. At this point, the battle was about to decide who would live and who would die. Boom! Suddenly, the old Taoist's 3rd Dharma body interweaved to form a destructive law of order, converging on Tao, Celestial Emperor's battlefield. He wanted to combine the 3 Dharma bodies. Destroying the 3 worlds was only the first step of his grand path. In the future, when he combined the 3 Dharma bodies, he might be able to tear apart the highest and pursue the ethereal path. Of course, this was greatly different from his expectations, but he had no choice but to combine them now. Old bastard, you'll die if you leave, unless you kill me. Su Yin shouted coldly. The immortal slaying sword suddenly exploded, forming a fiery red ocean of order, blocking the path ahead. He destroyed his own natal sword embryo, turning it into a raging ocean. This infuriated the old Taoist, and he unleashed his maximum power to kill Su Yin. Roar! Immortal Emperor Zong roared, and his remnant body's chi and blood surged, sweeping through the destruction great world, almost crushing the burial Emperor Vile Earth. The scene in the Vile Earth was horrifying. The depths were completely melted, and the falling raindrops turned into an ocean of destruction. The heaven-splitting ancestor was completely mad and wanted to kill immortal Emperor Zong in a short period of time. You won't live. Those who stand in my way shall be destroyed by the world of living. The ancestor of the 3 worlds roared, and his combat power was terrifying. His destruction physique was burning fiercely and emitted an abnormally terrifying Tao law of order, forming a giant hand that could destroy the world. It operated the source of destruction, and even the grand burial Emperor Vile Earth rumbled. Kill! Su Yin waved his bleeding fist and fought to the point of madness. His eyes were bloodshot, and he roared while swallowing the sky. The blood-weeping Overlord attacked fiercely, and the bleeding Emperor physique shone with boundless radiance. They were fighting to the death, and they were exhausting each other. As each day passed, Immortal Emperor Zhang's losses were severe. White hair appeared on his waterfall like black hair, and his body was somewhat withered. His source of life was also extremely dim. However, the weakened Immortal Emperor Zhang was extremely terrifying. His roar shook the burial Emperor Vile Earth, and millions of sword rays gushed out of his pores, tearing apart the ancient sky. After another 10 years, Immortal Emperor Zhang seemed to have aged even more. His hair was white, and he had entered his later years. His life force was greatly damaged, and his source of life was insufficient. There were bloody holes on his body, and one after another, surging with the laws of destruction. They all wanted to devour Su Yan's life, bury him in the vile earth, and turn him into a member of the Tao law of destruction. Su Yan, you have to hold on. Once the future chaos is resolved, you still have to properly enjoy life. Beat this old ghost to death, kill him. Many people lost control of their emotions. After 100 years of battle, Su Yan destroyed the ancestor of the three worlds' path of retreat, unleashing a bloody battle in the final destination of the vile earth. His body was in tatters, and the essence blood in his body was about to be completely dried up. How much longer can you hold on? The old Taoist roared. He was actually trapped by an ant for 100 years. This was truly a great humiliation. The main battlefield was not looking good. The Tao Celestial Emperor had always been fighting a bloody battle with him. Once he couldn't hold on, everything would be for naught. Immortal Emperor Zhang's hair was white, and his body was bleeding. He held the battle axe and let out a loud roar. His blood and chi surged, and there was still a terrifying life force. Even though he was in tatters, he still emitted matchless combat strength. There were too many wounds on his body. They were densely packed, and they were steaming with the laws of destruction. In the era of great battle, his body was bleeding continuously. It was as if millions of dragons of destruction were strangling his flesh shell. He reversed his combat strength and charged forward. He raised his hand, and the broken stars in the sky were destroyed. He blasted in front of the heaven-splitting ancestor. It's time to end this. The heaven-splitting ancestor's chest shone, and great Tao symbols gushed out. They contained the power of great destruction, and had already formed a huge vortex of destruction. It tore apart the long river of time and space, and instantly covered the entire battlefield. Su Yan's hand was bleeding, and the white bones could be seen. He seemed to have fallen into the long river of destruction. The three worlds were destroyed, and all living beings suffered. Accompanied by the grand sound of sacrifice and deafening chanting, it swept through Su Yan's body and mind. He coughed out large mouthfuls of blood, and his body staggered. Immortal Emperor Zhang, everyone in the world shouted. They discovered that the life essence in Su Yan's body was starting to extinguish. Was his vitality completely extinguished? At the end of the battle, he had shed his last drop of blood and used up his last bit of strength. His broken body seemed to have fallen into the abyss of destruction. No signs of life could be seen. It was as if he had completely disappeared. Su Yan's figure was too blurry. It was as if he was going to disappear completely. He was going to disappear from this great era of the universe, from the long river of history of the three worlds. Immortal Emperor Zhang used his huge axe to support his waist. He did not let his body fall to the ground. From the beginning to the end, his eyes were extremely deep. No emotions could be seen in them, and no one knew what he was thinking. In fact, after the old Taoist and Immortal Emperor Zhang fought for 100 years, he could not see through Immortal Emperor Zhang. He could not understand what this person was thinking. He really hated this feeling. He was the true ruler. Now, everything could end. He waved the number 1 killing sword since ancient times, and wanted to cut off Immortal Emperor Zhang's head. The sword light was magnificent, and it cut open the great world. It was bright and blazing, and it arrived almost instantly. Immortal Emperor Zhang's head was cut off. The headless man formed a terrifying scene. Tai Baokai and the others roared crazily. Su Yan was killed, and he lost his head. They lost control of their emotions, and hot tears rolled down their cheeks. Was Immortal Emperor Zhang gone? Was he going to die completely? Father, Su Siyu roared. Blood and tears rolled down his cheeks. He shouted sadly, Father, no, he's still alive. Immortal Emperor Zhang still has vitality. Someone suddenly screamed. The headless Immortal Emperor Zhang, holding his huge axe, looked like the #1 god of war in the eternal heavens. His broken body was stained with blood, but it was still full of terrifying power. It was filled with endless domineering aura, and it was emitting fluctuations of vitality. Boom! The headless body shone. Suddenly, a soul light rain filled the sky. It rushed out of the flesh shell and blended in the void, forming a soul body. Reenactment, reunion, origin of all living beings, reincarnation of the great era. The primordial spirit chanted, as if it was establishing the reincarnation of the three worlds, the origin of all living beings. The vast origin of reincarnation intertwined in the primordial spirit, forming billions of great Tao immortal marks. When they broke through the primordial spirit, they turned into billions of great Tao seeds. Rumble! The heaven and earth trembled. It was indescribably terrifying, as if a real, invincible being was born. The world was full of een and darkness, and it was so terrifying that it made people panic. It was as if a peerless fiend god who was sleeping in the great era reincarnation was awakening, and it was going against the past and the present. At this moment, Immortal Emperor Zhang's supreme path was completed. He was about to step out of the final stage. Chapter 22:13. The sky exploded as if the heavens were collapsing. This scene was too terrifying. Boom! The vast rain of light surged and burned everything. It was like lightning shooting out one after another. The momentum was vast and swept across the universe. Immortal Emperor Zhang. The whole world trembled and everyone was watching. Because at this moment, the river of time changed its course. Everything began to shake violently because of the mighty wave of a being who had cut off his own cultivation. Soon, it drowned everything and shrouded everything. This power soon shocked the past and dazzled the present. The Supreme, Sky Monkey looked up and roared. The Celestial Court is going to have a second Celestial Emperor. Boom! The vast universe was infinitely blurry. At this moment, Immortal Emperor Zhang's headless body was stained with blood. His primordial spirit flowed out and shone brilliantly. It spewed out Grand Dao runes and turned into billions of Grand Dao seeds. They were sacred and dignified, as if they were describing the supreme mystery of reincarnation. What is this? The old Taoist expression changed drastically. Immortal Emperor Zhang used his primordial spirit to carry the Tao. He deduced the supreme and transcended all laws in the universe. He could be considered the supreme. Boom! The sky was filled with dazzling reincarnation seeds. They shattered the universe and destroyed the ancient star sea. The wave that spread out became more and more majestic. What happened to Immortal Emperor Zhang's primordial spirit? His head had been cut off, but his primordial spirit lived on in a different state and deduced the reincarnation of life and death. Boom! The reincarnation seeds in the sky instantly deduced billions of reincarnation figures. They sat in the void and were lifelike. They carried the Supreme Grand Tao and sought the Supreme. Not good. Kill him. The old Taoist felt uneasy. He originally thought that Su Yan's path was the same as Tao's celestial emperors, but he realized that he was wrong. Immortal Emperor Zhang became a celestial emperor in a different way. Once his primordial spirit deduced the Tao, he could directly create the supreme physical body. This was simply touching the non-existent secret of reincarnation. Kill! The old Taoist roared. The number one killing sword of ancient times was unsheathed again. The light of destruction and order surged and suppressed the vision of the reincarnation figures in the sky. It wanted to kill all the figures. What was a mortal emperor Zong deducing? Billions of reincarnation figures continued to shine. They looked dignified and chanted the grand Tao scriptures. They originated from destruction. They declined from prosperity and reincarnated from destruction. In that instant, millions upon millions of little reincarnated figures roared at the same time. This kind of scene was even more cruel than the end of the universe. The atmosphere was berserk and violent enough to devour all life. Deducing the complete path of the Supreme Tao, combining it to form a divine chain of reincarnation that pierced through billions of tiny people. Since ancient times, the number one killing sword had been blocked, but it had not been broken. This was a little shocking. This meant that Su Yan's path of supremacy had been cultivated. The old priest hollered in rage and wanted to cut off Su Yan's Tao path. However, no matter how strong the sword was, once the origin reincarnation was formed, the moment it spun, it tore open the river of history and destroyed the ancient heavens. Supreme, Xing Tian and the others roared. Did Su Yan become a heavenly emperor? Billions of reincarnation figures hovered in the vile earth. A new primordial spirit was born at the core. Its divine might covered the sky and earth. It filled the vile earth and pressed down on the three realms. It was so majestic that all living beings prostrated themselves in worship. Su Yan had broken through the strongest shackle. The boundless wretched earth dimmed endlessly as countless life essences were extinguished. This large world that was full of devastation seemed to have been completely devoured by immortal Emperor Zong in one breath. As the supreme god of legends come into being, the world was shocked. Immortal Emperor Zong was reborn. He looked down on all living beings and looked down on the three realms. He was reborn from reincarnation. He was immortal and invincible. The shadow was too majestic. It roared at the sky, causing the burial emperor vile earth to tremble. Countless broken regions, stars, rivers, mountains, and destroyed worlds followed Su Yan's will and began to reorganize. This was a vast project, but Su Yan completed it in a short time. He swept away the vile earth and destroyed the order, forming a majestic world of rivers and mountains. What kind of method is this? Unbelievable. The Dark Emperor was stunned. The great world was reborn from reincarnation. It was supreme. The endless rivers and mountains flowed with supreme profundities. They emitted an extremely majestic fluctuation. At the end, Immortal Emperor Zong stood tall. His figure was unreachable. He had turned into a supreme being. His primordial spirit roared and swallowed the headless body in one breath. In an instant, Immortal Emperor Zhang's figure became much more terrifying. His brand new body was reborn. His blood energy surged and was invincible. He had experienced a life and death tribulation. He raised his fist and sent the first sword flying. Bastard! The heaven-splitting ancestor screamed and glared at Su Yan. How could this be? The three realms were his world. Now, two supreme beings had walked out. They were called Heavenly Emperors and reigned supreme. Thank you for your help. Immortal Emperor Zhang's words were law. The great world rumbled. If it wasn't for his Tao of destruction, Su Yan wouldn't have been able to walk this path. He was the master of all things in the universe. He was full of invincible dominance. At this moment, Su Yan could be called a supreme being. The heaven-splitting ancestor's expression was uncertain. Next, he did something that stunned everyone. He suddenly fled. His figure turned into a ray of light and seemed to have crossed billions of light years in a short time. Your path is over. Immortal Emperor Zhang's fist was unparalleled. His blood energy erupted with extreme brilliance. He changed. He looked like a youth, a middle-aged man, and an old man. In the cycle of reincarnation, Su Yan's fist imprint blasted open the past, present, and future. Suddenly, it blasted towards the place where the ancestor of the three realms had disappeared. It opened up the river of time. An extreme power rushed towards the fleeing old Taoist. The old Taoist spat out a mouthful of blood. A bloody hole also appeared on his back, piercing through his chest. He looked particularly miserable. His hair was disheveled, and he no longer had the majesty of the heaven-splitting ancestor who controlled everything. Once his Dharma body was destroyed, the consequences would be unimaginable. It was very likely that he would lose everything and become nothing. Kill! Su Yan roared. His black hair draped down like a waterfall. He swung his imperial fist. The reincarnation Tao and origin rebirth affected the heaven-splitting ancestor's figure. His body trembled and cracked. Thick essence blood poured down. Bastard! I'm not willing to accept this. The heaven-splitting ancestor cried out in grief and indignation. After all, he was the one who created Su Yan. However, Immortal Emperor Zong had actually stepped into this trial. This made the heaven-splitting ancestor extremely upset. Everything was out of his control. He coughed out large mouthfuls of blood. His body staggered and fell into a pool of blood. He struggled to get up. Dark Emperor and the other side. Was the heaven-splitting ancestor finished? Had he reached the peak? At this moment, their emotions were very complicated. This was the master they revered in the past. 11. She murmured. She muttered to herself. Her teacher had 10 great disciples, and Su Yan should have been the 11th. Nothing could go back. The heaven-splitting ancestor's third Dharma body struggled in the pool of blood, letting out bestial cries. In fact, he didn't feel much resentment, even though he had lost to Tao Celestial Emperor. After all, the 9-colored heavenly embryo was the embryo he used to derive the Tao of destruction. He had never paid attention to it. Now, a new Su Yan had defied the heavens. This should be considered his second self-destruction and rebirth. He walked the Tao of origin and destruction. It just so happened that the heaven-splitting ancestor's Tao of destruction was extremely powerful, helping Su Yan walk this path to the peak. The transformation in the peak, the reincarnation of life and death, indicated Su Yan's peerless terror. He felt that the path of supremacy didn't exist at all. He felt that he couldn't feel any shackles on his body. He was truly standing in an invincible domain. He could create a great era of glory. Zong, Immortal Emperor. The murderous weapons in the sky waved their flags and shouted. They were so excited that tears filled their eyes. The Celestial Court had a second Celestial Emperor. The significance was too great. In the future, the Celestial Court would be strong for all eternity. It would continue to prosper and bring about eternal peace. Master, it's time for you to go. Human Emperor came. He couldn't let go and sighed. The path of defying the heavens. The calamity of defying the heavens. Master, you lost. You didn't lose to Su Yan, you lost to yourself. All things in this world. Human Emperor's aura was very majestic. He swallowed the righteous energy and looked down on the world to protect all life. He coldly shouted, "There are billions of lives in this universe. How can one sentence kill them all?" Bastard, what do you know? The heaven-splitting ancestor angrily rebuked. You suddenly won. Human Emperor roared. What's the point? Who in this world can see your glory and achievements? All they ask for is nothing. Be *starred. Shut up. The heaven-splitting ancestor was furious. He angrily shouted, if it weren't for the 3 celestial coffins interfering with my perception, no one would be able to escape from my palm. I didn't lose to you or to me. I lost to the existence behind the 3 celestial coffins. Su Yan's eyes shot out cold lightning. He said, what's the point of saying this? We have our own lives. Suddenly, a great enemy from the heavens will attack us in the future. There are even more terrifying giants who want to destroy us. We will also have to bear the wrath of the celestial court. Zong, Immortal Emperor's words caused a destroyed body to tremble violently. He struggled in pain. Ha ha ha. The heaven-splitting ancestor crazily roared with unspeakable grief. In the past, he looked down on the river of history and played with the fate of all life. He was invincible and lonely. Now, he wasn't in despair. He was only unwilling. He wanted to turn the tables and look down on the world again, but he didn't have the chance anymore. With two celestial emperors working together, who could resist them? Unless the ethereal path he was searching for truly existed. But which path did it really exist? I'll send you on your way. Su Yan's eyes shot out cold lightning. He raised his bloody fist and threw it at the heaven-splitting ancestor. He directly exploded, crumbling into pieces. Su Yan didn't even leave a trace of his true spirit for him. He didn't have any hope of revival. Dead, the heaven-splitting ancestor has fallen. The fall of the third Dharma body will definitely affect the stability of his other Dharma bodies. The battle is about to end. The world cheered and the great fortune chi phenomenon appeared again. Zong, Immortal Emperor, wielded the number 1 killing sword since ancient times. He cut the seal inside and slashed at the law of order he left behind. The law of order boiled fiercely and turned back into the immortal slaying sword. It flew back into Su Yan's hand. From this moment on, the immortal slaying sword and the number 1 killing sword since ancient times merged into one. Su Yan refined it with his supreme magic power. The two sword embryos merged into one and turned into the reincarnation sword embryo. The brilliance it emitted could easily cut the river of time. The sword was too terrifying. The two supreme sword embryos merged into one to form a new sword embryo. Slash! Su Yan swung the reincarnation sword. His killing intent surged and cut through everything. The sword embryo was too powerful. After all, the two sword embryos merged into one to form a new reincarnation sword. Su Yan took out the sword embryo and cut through the world of the main battlefield in front of him, opening up a space-time passage. The ultimate place, the ultimate battle. It seemed to be the end. The heaven-splitting ancestors' two Dharma bodies merged into one to fight the Tao Celestial Emperor. In fact, after a long time, no one could kill the other. The heaven-splitting ancestor was waiting for his third Dharma body to form. When the three bodies merged into one, he might be able to attack the ethereal supreme path and destroy the Tao Celestial Emperor. Now that the third Dharma body was destroyed, the heaven-splitting ancestor lost his fighting spirit. He retreated in defeat and roared at the sky. Kill! The Tao Celestial Emperor's fist imprint was unparalleled. It pierced through the heavens and the heaven-splitting ancestor's chest. The heaven-splitting ancestor cried out miserably. He couldn't hold on anymore. His Dharma body collapsed. The process was too horrible to look at. He had to face the joint attack of two celestial emperors. Su Yan swung the reincarnation sword and cut off one of his arms. What kind of situation was that? No matter what, it was a long river of history where the three celestial emperors stood. It formed a scene that shook the 9 heavens and 10 earths. It contained a terrifying demonic nature that deeply shocked the kings of the celestial court, who could fight against the two celestial emperors when they worked together. Chapter 22:14. A shocking energy storm was suddenly unleashed. The mighty buried emperor, vile earth, almost caused the complete reconstruction of the world to collapse. The outer realm trembled, giving rise to a monstrous wave of evil energy. It was as if the entire universe was about to be destroyed, and even the 3 realms were about to be devoured. He self-destructed. Sky Monkey and the others trembled. The storm was like billions of heavenly blades slashing down. The process was even more shocking. This old ghost is finally dead. It's over. Black King shouted madly. Even in death, he was not at peace. The energy matter that exploded turned into sharp blades that wanted to cut Black King's body. He roared. Was it over? What happened? I can't see anything clearly. The battle in the ultimate land was about to end. Everyone in the 3 realms was restless. The rolling storm swept over, and the area it affected was too vast. Woo-woo! Ghosts cried and gods howled. A sea of blood flowed, and a vision covered the sky. The light emitted from the source area was also very bright. It was so bright that the eyes of the experts began to bleed. They could not see anything clearly. They felt that the river of history had collapsed, and a disaster had been born. Human Emperor and the others were silent. At this moment, they clearly felt that the heaven-splitting ancestor had disappeared. At the moment of his death, he chose the craziest method. He detonated his supreme body, and a sea of blood filled the sky. It emitted a great destruction, and great prosperity fluctuation. 3 supreme paths. One had to admit that the heaven-splitting ancestor was amazing. He was worthy of being called a supreme giant. He did not want to leave anything behind for the 2 sky emperors, even if he died. At the battlefield, people found that immortal Emperor Zong was coughing up blood as if he had been slashed by a sword. His body was somewhat tattered. Old thing, you can't be at peace even if you die. Why don't you just go on your way? Maybe I can leave you a true spirit to chat with you. Su Yin shouted. His blood-stained hair danced in the wind. His essence, energy, and spirit were infinitely strong. He had established the supreme path, and his power was shocking. The heaven-splitting ancestor knew that his time was up. Before he died, he did not let them have an easy time. He self-destructed his body, and an extremely terrifying killing force was born. It tore apart the river of history and caused the world to bleed. The vision shocked the world. The death of a supreme caused a disaster. The 3 realms were in turmoil. Suppress. Immortal Emperor Zong roared furiously. He used his most terrifying combat strength to suppress the apocalyptic storm. Even so, there was still a great calamity sweeping towards the 3 realms. Woo-woo! A blood-colored hurricane swept through, tearing apart the mountains and lands. Even the Emperor Burial Ground was collapsing. The terrifying storm even swept through the 3 realms. The utmost being was bleeding, and the entire 3 realms was dyed red. Even the stars in the skies were dyed red with blood. Fortunately, the 3 heavenly coffins suppressed the great fortune of the 3 worlds, preventing any historical calamities from happening. In short, at the most crucial moment, the heaven-splitting ancestor chose the most berserk method of slaughter to express his great dissatisfaction and fury. The blood of the 3 realms flowed, and natural disasters descended upon the world, forming an unparalleled influence. Even the great Tao was blinded, chaotic scenes appearing everywhere. Everyone was terrified, feeling as if they were living in this bloody prison. They didn't dare to release any life force, as if what awaited them in the next moment was death. Rumble, the remnant blood of the utmost being rained down from the skies like a world-burning waterfall, gushing out with a howl. At the end of the region, immortal Emperor Zong went berserk. He took out the reincarnation sword and slashed out with billions of sword beams. Strand after strand of thick and large samsara sword lights slashed through time, space, prosperity, and death. They surged and erupted, swept through the sea of blood, and slashed apart countless blood Tao seals. No matter what, they couldn't give the heaven-splitting ancestor any hope of rebuilding. The current Su Yin was already a terrifying utmost war god, looking down on the 3 realms. He wielded the reincarnation sword embryo and destroyed the remnant blood that filled the world. The surging blood seals were cut off, turning into energy essence that flooded the space-time of the 3 realms. The utmost being fell, and the remnant blood returned to heaven and earth. The energy substance released by the 3 realms suddenly became much more vigorous. The emperors shouted excitedly as they absorbed the remnant blood that filled the sky. Roar! The long Daesong roared as it swallowed the sky. It seemed very happy as it shook its head and absorbed the remnant blood in large mouthfuls. However, gradually, the long Daesong became somewhat confused and muddle-headed. It seemed as if it had forgotten many things, but it also seemed as if it had recalled many things. Its golden flesh shell was powerful and robust, possessing extraordinary divine might. The Daesong's body vaguely flickered with a special radiance. It was like grains of sparkling and translucent soil, each of them somewhat resplendent. It seemed as if they were awakened by the remnant blood of the utmost being. They began to revolve around the Daesong's tall and sturdy body, emitting a demonic luster. Muexian was no longer as naive and innocent as before. She was somewhat wooden. Her silver hair reached her waist, and her face was drifting. She stared at the starry sky in a daze, thinking about something unknown. The three realms' floating blood. This was the blood of the utmost being. It was a tremendous natural luck and opportunity in itself, imperceptibly bestowing upon all living things great natural luck. There were some who were extremely lucky. Originally, their aptitudes were mediocre, their great path hopeless. However, who would have thought that a drop of blood would roll down from the heaven's peak, follow the crown of their heads, and enter their flesh? They would undergo a complete rebirth, producing terrifying potential, as if they had turned into an unmatched, undying holy core of the present world. They were resplendent and brilliant, just like an immortal king who had fallen into the boundless secular world. There are also some whose chi and blood declined, about to reach the end of their lifespans. They obtained the baptism of the remnant blood, becoming powerful and flourishing, producing great treasures within their bodies. They recovered to their golden years, stimulating great potential, directly reaching the Emperor realm. There were some children whose heads were outstanding, releasing the most divine and holy radiance. Their potential could be said to be matchless. This was the essence of the heaven-splitting ancestors' supreme treasure, known to be the most powerful secret medicine in the heavens. Just by bathing in it, they obtained a world-shocking baptism. This is the rain of good fortune. The entire world trembled, the rain of good fortune drifting down. A group of exceptional geniuses were born in the three realms, releasing great potential. Their future paths of growth were destined to be extraordinary. They were all lucky. In the celestial palace of the immortal world, there was also surging blood sprinkling down. Many soldiers obtained a powerful baptism and baptism. In the depths of the celestial palace, there was a pile of special soil. It also unexpectedly obtained some nourishment from the remnant blood. This pile of special soil seemed a bit sinister, as if it was flowing on the spot, releasing exceptionally mysterious fluctuations. Unfortunately, these fluctuations were too weak. The powerful troops of the celestial court didn't discover it. This soil was flowing like special sand, extremely strange. That old disaster has finally fallen. Su Yin let out a sigh of relief. Just now, he counterattacked before death, self-detonating the flesh shell of the Supreme Being. It was extremely dangerous. Immortal Emperor Zong used great magical force to continuously explore the three realms. In the end, he was sure that the heaven-splitting ancestor no longer existed in this world. His aura had disappeared, ashes to ashes, earth to earth. Even after searching the long river of time, not a trace of an imprint could be found. The three realms even welcomed a great change. It was as if the shackles of the underworld had been unlocked. The environment became abnormally majestic, and a layer of restraint was removed. The Sword Ancestor and the others were especially excited. They felt as if they had seen a path waiting for them in the underworld. Was that the supreme path? The three realms were filled with the supreme shackles that originated from the heaven-splitting ancestor. Now that he had fallen, the shackles were naturally gone. The Monkey King and the others saw the hope of breaking through. One day, they might become supreme beings as well. Roar! The Black King and the others were too excited. The great disaster was eliminated, and the three realms regained peace. They howled incessantly as they charged toward the main battlefield world. These were the Tao Celestial Emperor's life and death brothers. There were also his wife, daughter, and grandchildren. They all had tears in their eyes. The Tao Celestial Emperor sat cross-legged on the ground. His injuries were too severe. His chi and blood were dried up, and his life was in danger. He looked at the flowing bloodlight and sighed softly. Heaven-splitting ancestor, Three great bodies merged into one. Can you really reach the supreme level? Who is he? Su Yin was a little confused. Was he gone just like that? An existence that lived in legends? Where did he come from? What era did he come from? The enemy, at the final moment, did not fulfill his wish. He chose to self-destruct before he died, not leaving behind any inheritance or creation. The Tao Celestial Emperor shook his head. This old man was too arrogant. They had fought for so many years. Could he not satisfy his curiosity? One had to know that the Dark Emperor, the Human Emperor, and the Three Emperors' ancestor were the three strongest masters of the three realms. Before they were born, the heaven-splitting ancestor already had two invincible bodies. Countless years had passed, and what he wanted was the third body to be destroyed. There was no doubt about how terrifying he was. Maybe he doesn't belong to the three realms, or maybe he came from before the three realms were born. The Tao Celestial Emperor pondered. When he came here from the three realms, he had experienced many complicated things along the way, and his strength had greatly increased. On the contrary, the heaven-splitting ancestor, who had lived for countless years, was too powerful and prosperous. It's like a reincarnation. Immortal Emperor Zong frowned. A reincarnation of a great era. The heaven-splitting ancestor most likely came from the previous reincarnation of the three realms. Perhaps, after countless eras, the Tao Celestial Emperor and the others would no longer exist. Countless eras, he muttered. He thought to himself, where is the limit of the path of cultivation? Did the heaven-splitting ancestor's goal truly exist? Celestial Emperor, how long will it take for your injuries to heal? Immortal Emperor Zong asked. Who knows? It's over, I guess. The Tao Celestial Emperor's injuries were severe. It was not something that could be healed in a short 1,000 years. Even the 9 Revolutions creation pill would not be of much help to the Tao Celestial Emperor. He could only rely on himself to recover. The Black King and the others came. The Tao Celestial Emperor smiled tiredly. His hair was white. He was old after all. All these years of fighting the heaven-splitting ancestor had exhausted his mind. It would take a long time for him to recover. It might even take 10,000 years. Celestial Emperor, the experts shouted. They wanted to drink with him and drink to their heart's content. The Tao Celestial Emperor's injuries were severe. He was silent in the depths of the main battlefield. His skinny figure was stained with blood. It's over. It's finally over. The kings of the Celestial Court were crying and laughing. The great calamity was over, and the three realms were united. Suddenly, they felt that something was missing. Boom! The Tao Celestial Emperor's weakened figure shone and heated up. It was as if he was devouring the past, present, and future. His absorption speed was too fast. The boundless time and space appeared dim. He was seizing the power of time, space, and the river of eras. 10,000 years. The Black King's eyes widened. It would take at least 10,000 years to recover. It was too long. The Tao Celestial Emperor was too lazy to stand up and tell them to come back 10,000 years later. Reading House. Chapter 2215. Tao Celestial Emperor was in seclusion in the vast space-time. His figure was blurry and no one could see what was going on. Black King and the other side. They wanted to drink and chat, but who knew they would have to wait for 10,000 years? Of course, they didn't care about the time. 10,000 years passed quickly in the absence of war. Immortal Emperor Zong returned and repaired the broken, vile Earth world. This was a vast and beautiful land. In the future, it would be full of vitality and civilization. Along the way, Su Yin looked at the great world and the entire Three Realms universe. Is there still a sky beyond heaven? Su Yin said softly. His figure was majestic as he returned to the Three Realms. He shook his head and said, maybe. There is a deeper sky beyond heaven. Daesong. After returning to the Three Realms, Su Yin frowned slightly. He looked at Daesong in a daze. He was confused and his spirit was a little weak. He walked over. His body was filled with supreme heavenly might. The vast land became stronger. His body's vitality was too terrifying and couldn't be sealed. Just a slight leak could intimidate the world. Daesung came back to his senses and scratched his head. He seemed to be in a trance just now. Oh, whoa. Daesung returned to his usual self. He shouted happily and shook his head while rubbing against his father's arm. Mu Xian also woke up. She returned to her usual happy self and chattered with Su Yin nonstop. She asked all sorts of questions in a pure and innocent manner. Su Yin was surprised. He looked at Long Daesung and then at Mu Xian. He felt a little strange in his heart, but he couldn't say anything, nor could he discern anything. Maybe this battle was too tiring. Immortal Emperor Zong returned to the heavenly palace. The three realms returned to peace, and the Tao returned to one. The world celebrated. It was lively for a few years before it gradually calmed down. The great world also gradually changed. The three realms became prosperous and glorious. The damaged three-world mountain had also disappeared. The abyss of the universe was still the core of the three realms. It was hard to imagine that this was the Tao-seeking land of the heaven-splitting ancestor. It was also the origin of the 10 great life forms. 100 years of leisurely days quietly passed. After immortal Emperor Zhang's injuries were healed, he reorganized the core of the three realms. Energy, Tao, and Tao returned to one, using great divine abilities to develop and reconstruct the core area. Supreme Highland. Discussions were going on everywhere in the three realms. Immortal Emperor Zong had opened the highest ground of the three realms and became the strongest sacred ground of the three realms. From this place, one could reach the supreme path of the three realms. Of course, exploring the path of supremacy was naturally as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Wanting to completely step onto it was fraught with difficulties. In the past, the heaven-splitting ancestor had grasped the general trend of the three realms, and there was no hope for any supremacy to emerge. Now that the environment had been reshuffled, there would definitely be hope for the birth of another utmost being in the future. Immortal Emperor Zong studied the three great heavenly coffins and deduced the Tao inheritance hidden within them. The three heavenly coffins continued to open beside Immortal Emperor Zong. The heavenly coffin of darkness, the 9-colored heavenly coffin, and the Snow Mountain Dragon coffin. These three coffins were heavy and oppressive. They contained powerful Taos of order, and they vaguely collided with Su Yan's Taos of Tao. In the end, Su Yan could confirm that there was a supreme technique hidden within. It was just that the supreme technique was incomplete and incomplete. Su Yan was shocked. An incomplete supreme technique. He frowned slightly. This meant that there were more than 3 heavenly coffins in this series. Were the other heavenly coffins? Did they disappear, or were they destroyed? Or rather, they did not belong to this world. Who was the owner of the heavenly coffins? Were the heavenly coffins that he had refined his natal artifact? What kind of era was this world that he had once lived in? Before the 3 realms? Was it the era before the heaven-splitting ancestor? Or did it originate from outside the 3 realms? If I understood everything, would this world still be this world? Su Yin murmured. He did not want to delve deeper and sealed the 3 heavenly coffins. The current immortal Emperor Zong was getting more powerful and unfathomable. However, the more he was like this, the more he felt an endless loneliness shrouding him. Sometimes, immortal Emperor Zong would remain silent. Sometimes, he even wanted to cross the 3 realms and explore the endless chaos. Humans were always curious. There were even times when he had a strange feeling that he might not be strong enough to control everything and explore everything. However, when he really explored everything, would it really be the final destination? He looked up at the sky and murmured to himself, "Limitless? The universe is limitless, and cultivation is limitless." The great path that the heaven-splitting ancestor was pursuing might have existed before, but what was the meaning of becoming stronger? This proved that the enemy was the driving force to move forward. Their pursuits were different. It's been strange these years. Mu Xian has often been in a daze. I don't know why, but it seems like she has something on her mind. Bamboo Moon came. She frowned and interrupted Su Yan's thoughts. Mu Xin had originally died. She crawled out of the soil and lived another life. Mu Xin had lived a carefree life in the heavenly palace all these years. Why would she have such complicated thoughts? Mu Xin had even been hiding in her room all these years. In a daze? Immortal Emperor Zong frowned. It seemed that Long Daesung was also often confused. What did I miss? Does reincarnation really exist in this world? Can it really bring the dead back to life? Immortal Emperor Zhang's heart skipped a beat. His eyes looked through Long Daesung's cave abode. It seemed to be in a daze, and seemed to be in a daze. Sometimes, Xing Tian and the others felt that Long Daesung was a stranger, as if it had forgotten them. This put them in a bad mood. Originally, they thought that Long Daesung might enter a new round of transformation and become an 11 transformation true dragon. Hence, they did not pay much attention to it. 100 years ago, Su Yin had a bad premonition. Why was Long Daesung still wearing such an expression? Immortal Emperor Zong came to Long Daesung's side and raised his hand to touch Daesung's head. Roar! Suddenly, Long Daesung roared violently. It looked ferocious and terrifying. It opened its mouth and almost bit Su Yan's hand. Daesung. Su Yan frowned slightly and looked at Long Daesung. Has it forgotten who I am? Its golden pupils suddenly turned pitch black. It was pitch black and majestic. It was like two black holes of the universe that were going to devour all living things. Su Yan was shocked. He stared at Long Daesung with his eyes wide open. His face was gloomy. Then Su Yan coughed up blood. Little white dragon, Bamboo Moon shouted. Long Daesung suddenly raised its huge claw and slammed it on Su Yan's chest. It made a deafening sound that alerted the higher-ups of the celestial court. This attack was very powerful. Daesung's body emitted a terrifying power that could tear the 9 heavens and 10 earths apart. Daesung, what's wrong with you? Su Yan was furious. The blood in his body boiled. His black hair danced like a waterfall, and his aura shook the 3 realms. He was so terrifying. In fact, Immortal Emperor Zong could have blocked it, but he didn't. The injuries on his body were nothing compared to the fury in his heart. Daesung seemed to have turned into another living thing. It looked extremely ferocious. Its golden shell was as black as ink, and the light of destruction was surging. It was like an invincible giant who had come to this world from the age of great destruction. Daesung, what are you doing? Bao Kai and the rest came and yelled uncontrollably. Daesung was attacking Su Yin with its claws. It changed, completely changed. It seemed to have turned into a dark monster and attacked Su Yin crazily. Daesung, what's wrong with you? Immortal Emperor Zong clenched his fists tightly and allowed the force to hit him. Although he looked injured, he was still injured. Although he seemed to be injured, Immortal Emperor Zong was so terrifying that he only suffered superficial wounds. Mu Xin. In the next moment, Su Yan's eyes flashed with a cold light. He raised his hand and pressed down on Mu Xion's residence. Phoenix King lost her composure. Immortal Emperor Zong was injured, and his body was bleeding. Mu Xion's residence collapsed. Immortal Emperor Zhang's hand pressed down on Mu Xion. However, as his aura got closer, Mu Xion's body suddenly changed. It was as black as ink, and the light of destruction was terrifying. It was like the awakening of a sleeping supreme. Another utmost being, Immortal Emperor Zhang's expression was cold. It was not the sky-splitting ancestor. It was someone else, who dared to cause trouble in the 3 realms. The reincarnation sword unsheathed itself, cut through the river of time and space, and slashed at the place where Fairy Zixia was cultivating. The sword ancestor's expression was uncertain. The moment Su Yan's aura surged, the Supreme was about to suppress Fairy Zixia. However, Fairy Zixia's body also changed. She walked out step by step. She was originally a holy fairy, but she slowly turned into a demon god from hell. She was like a ghost god that slowly walked out from the source of darkness. Zixia, my disciple, what's wrong with you? Do you still remember Master? The sword ancestor shouted and used the sound of Tao to try to wake Fairy Zixia up. Unfortunately, it was useless. Long Daesong and Mu Xian had forgotten about Su Yin, let alone Fairy Zixia. She slashed out her sword light and began to attack Immortal Emperor Zong. Immortal Emperor Zong was invulnerable. No matter how strong the three of them were, they could not threaten Su Yin. His heart was filled with pain. These three were his closest friends, but they were met with misfortune. Disaster is coming. Who's causing trouble? The Black King and the others also shouted in horror. The three realms changed. An unparalleled, mysterious wave swept over. It was like a supreme who had disappeared at the end of history. It suddenly pressed down on this world. Wong. Patches of black mist seeped in, as if they were coming from the highest dome, as if they were coming from the end of time. The black mass moved along the boundless river of time, and finally, it gradually pressed down on this world. What the hell is this? Why is there a hidden hand? The Black King trembled. He felt that the hand of death was pressing down on his head. It grabbed his soul and wanted to take away his life. This aura affected the entire three realms. It was so ancient that it was difficult to trace back. It was like a giant that lived before history. It wanted to return to the three realms. The entire world seemed extremely dark. Supreme Tao. There is actually a supreme expert in the three realms. The Tao Divine Immortal's expression changed. All living beings had to follow his will and follow his Tao. This was a complete supreme Tao. The strongest emperors panicked. They felt that their bodies were about to explode. They felt that they were incompatible with the darkness, as if they did not belong to the same civilization. They all had a premonition that a disaster was coming. Mu Xian, I am your grandfather. Don't you remember me? Mu Xian. The Phoenix King cried and lost control of his emotions. At this moment, Mu Xian became very unfamiliar. The aura she emitted was also extremely terrifying. My granddaughter, come back. The Phoenix King roared crazily. He reached out to grab the dark Mu Xian. Unfortunately, the moment he got close, his body split apart like he had exploded. He roared in pain. No matter what, the Phoenix King was still a peak emperor. However, he couldn't withstand the fluctuations leaking from Mu Xian's body and was about to die. Mu Xian. The Phoenix King laid in a pool of blood. He reached out to grab the cold Mu Xian. His heart was filled with despair. Mu Xian had forgotten about the Phoenix King. She had forgotten about everything. The Phoenix King cried. The pain on his body couldn't compare to the psychological blow. This was his only bloodline. Was it going to be destroyed? Brothers, it will end tomorrow. Book reading room. Chapter 22:16. An unimaginable upheaval swept across the three realms, causing a huge uproar. The space of the three realms turned dark in a short period of time. It was so dark that one couldn't even see their own fingers. It was suffocating. The glorious era ushered in a major change. In the direction of the source, the three black shadows were like sleeping supreme beings that were gradually awakening. They were filled with supreme energy waves accompanied by the power of destruction, wanting to destroy the world. Immortal Emperor Zhang's expression was cold. His messy hair danced in the wind. The reincarnation sword on his back glowed on its own, splitting the ancient river. Billions of sword rays could instantly slash through the evil spirits and suppress all rebellions. The darkness collapsed in an instant, and the light of the three realms reappeared. Immortal Emperor Zong stood at the peak of the vast universe. His body released supreme energy that swept across the universe of the three realms, causing billions of great Taos to resonate, suppressing all the Dark Order. Long A.E. Song, Mu Xian, and Zixiao experienced a huge change in their lives. They seemed to have turned into another kind of dark creatures. Their spiritual will no longer existed. This was quite cruel to Su Yin. He couldn't kill them. Roar! An earth-shattering roar resounded through the sea of stars. In the process of the three powerhouses awakening, their energy leaked out. It was actually able to compete with Immortal Emperor Zhang's law order, causing the three realms to enter the era of darkness once again. Supreme. Are they also supreme? The whole world trembled. They could clearly sense that Mu-Xian and the other two had awakened supreme energy in their bodies. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to compete with immortal Emperor Zhang's law order. The sky turned dark. In the process of the three dark powerhouses awakening, terrifying energy waves rose, causing people to tremble. Even their flesh shells were about to disintegrate. Suppress. Immortal Emperor Zhang's words were law. His combat power surged by a large margin. The dim, great Daos of the three realms became dazzling. His figure was boundless in a short period of time, turning into an invincible giant who looked down on the river of history. Immortal Emperor Zhang's divine power was unparalleled. Boom! Endless majestic pressure dispersed all evil. Suyan's figure was too majestic. The three realms seemed a little small. Long Aisong and the other two were as insignificant as dust. They couldn't help but tremble under Immortal Emperor Zhang's divine power. Suddenly, supreme energy waves were released from their bodies. However, it was affected by the mysterious substance after all. Of course, wake up! The three realms rumbled. Immortal Emperor Zhang's deep voice resounded through the universe's space-time, trying to awaken their will that had sunk into darkness. Roar! Daesong, Mu-Xian, and Zixia, the three experts roared in a low voice. From the beginning to the end, their faces were cold and indifferent. Their eyes were evil as they glared at Su Yan. They had become completely different people. They had become very unfamiliar. Their demonic pupils shot out the light of great destruction, wanting to destroy Su Yan's power. This is... Immortal Emperor Zhang's eyes were deep, emitting cold lightning as he stared at the strange and dark energy in the depths of their bodies. He was observing the special soil particles. Of course, this was not real soil at all. It was the smell of soil that they had been contaminated with during the process of resurrection. There was a major problem with the soil, and it was on the path of resurrection. Immortal Emperor Zhang sensed the ripples of supreme blood from the soil. Clearly, it was the blood essence of the heaven-splitting ancestor that had revived the soil. Could it be that this was the same substance as the three great heavenly coffins? In the end, the cultivators who used the soil to resurrect couldn't refine it at all and would eventually become a part of the heavenly coffins. Of course, this soil was not the material of the heavenly coffins. It was just another substance that was related to an ancient and mysterious life form. Immortal Emperor Zhang's palms shone brightly, trying to force the substance out of their bodies. His palms were unparalleled. One strike after another, supreme order runes rushed out, explaining the power of reincarnation and life and death. He wanted to cut off the soil substance in their bodies. However, Su Yan's face was ugly. The moment the soil was shaken out by his supreme combat power, the black fog around the three dissipated. They regained some of their consciousness, but they let out sorrowful cries. They were really about to die. Their souls started to distort and were about to disappear completely. Brother Su Yan, what did Mu-Xian do wrong? Mu-Xian, don't die. Mu-Xian's silver eyes were red. She cried loudly and shook her head in pain. She didn't understand why Su Yan attacked her. She felt that she had to leave completely. Daesong also cried out and shivered. He felt that his body was losing a lot of its functions and was about to leave this world. Fairy Zixia was relatively calm. She seemed to have thought of something and said in a trembling voice, "If this day really comes, kill me. I don't want my body to become a walking corpse." Su Yan, don't show mercy. Big Sister Zixia, what happened? I don't want to leave, Brother Su Yan. Mu-Xian cried with red eyes. When she saw the Phoenix King lying in a pool of blood, she cried even more violently. The Phoenix King's heart was in pain. He hammered his heart that was about to explode. Blood kept flowing out of the corner of his mouth. He was heartbroken. Why did this happen? The Sword Master was furious. This was his only disciple. Could it be that he couldn't keep her? Su Yan's eyes trembled. His body emitted a terrifying killing intent that tore apart the heavens. His eyes were blazing like two peerless heavenly blades that were being unsealed. One could see the fury in his heart. It couldn't be broken. Once it was broken, they would definitely die. After all, they relied on the soil to survive. Su Yan's eyes were bloodshot. He was also a supreme, but he couldn't solve this problem. His heart was filled with grief and anger. What was the point of cultivation? Could it be that there was no complete reincarnation in this world? Immortal Zong had no choice but to put the soil back into their bodies. Without a doubt, they had forgotten everything once again. Darkness. Boom! Suddenly, from the direction of the celestial world, torrential hurricanes appeared one after another, rolling and churning. The sky exploded. Time was coming to an end. Everything was withering. The vast world was returning to the Great Destruction era. The river of time was already blurred. The fluctuations were too strong, causing the entire celestial world to tremble. The world was about to fall into the Great Destruction era. One could even vaguely see that in the direction of the source of the black hurricanes, a mass of soil was flowing, rotating, and intertwining. Its aura was very violent. It was like a destructive demonic star that was attacking the world. Each of them emitted a terrifying aura. Su Yan displayed the supreme law, suppressing Daesong and the other two. He strolled toward the celestial world. His body instantly emitted the supreme profundity of reincarnation. When the supreme Tao fruit bloomed, it affected the space-time of the celestial world, suppressing the darkness and chaos. Immortal Zhang's expression was cold. The source was awakening. A special mass of soil was flowing. Each grain of soil was extremely shocking. They were like special flesh and blood, special reincarnation soil. Flesh and blood formed from the fall of an expert. Su Yan noticed something. The flesh and blood of a supreme had turned into soil. After a long time, it had returned alive. Another old demon. The three realms were in an uproar. The celestial world was facing a great change. If Immortal Zong hadn't suppressed the source of the storm in the celestial world, it would have been an unbearable blow to the three realms. Now, Immortal Zong was facing the mysterious soil in the broken heavenly palace. A shocking battle could erupt at any time. Dao Calamity, Xian go and inform your father. Hurry! The Black King's expression was solemn. The Dao Celestial Emperor's seclusion grounds were completely sealed. He still didn't know that a terrible disaster had happened in the three realms. Rumble. The heavenly palace was destroyed. Black tornadoes filled the sky and howled. The light of the great annihilation surged as if an unparalleled demon king had awakened. The supreme universal law suddenly pressed down on Immortal Emperor Zong. In an instant, Immortal Zong coughed out blood. He felt very weak, as if he was about to die. His body was about to be destroyed. It was as if the Supreme Tao was about to disappear. What was this? This was the collision between the Supreme Tao and the Supreme Tao. The Supreme Tao couldn't see the Supreme Tao. When they saw each other, it was a fight to the death. Disperse! Immortal Zong shouted. Reincarnation regenerated him. He, who was in decline, stood at his peak in an instant. Billions of sword radiance shone from his eyes. He slashed through the black hurricanes and charged toward the flowing, mysterious soil. Rumble. However, the soil was even more terrifying. It carried a vast pressure that transcended the ancient era. It simply traversed the entire history. Its influence was horrifying. Su Yan's primordial spirit trembled. He seemed to have noticed the end of the long river of history. He noticed a huge demonic shadow that began to destroy the world and this history. It was repeating itself according to his will. What kind of existence was that? It had destroyed the three realms. It was so long ago that even the heaven-splitting ancestor was not born. After he died, he turned into soil that contained the supreme effect of resurrection. Could it be that this was an existence that surpassed the supreme Tao? Could it be that this was an existence that could reverse everything and even summon dead creatures back to life? Immortal Zhang's expression was solemn. This existence had lived for too long. It was so ancient that he couldn't trace his origin. Rumble. The invincible giant gradually walked toward resurrection. The flowing soil shone and combined into a body that was soaked in blood. It broke through the sky and once again ruled the world. However, he didn't have a head at all. Only half of his body was left. It emitted the light of destruction. However, for this kind of person, Tao techniques were the most powerful. The light of destruction shot out. The long river of history rumbled. The plane was thrown into chaos. That kind of pressure was simply unimaginable. It broke through Immortal Zhang's seal and pressed down on the entire three realms. It wanted to destroy all life again, an existence even more terrifying than the heaven-splitting ancestor. The creatures of the world cried out in shock. Even the three heavenly coffins couldn't suppress it anymore. The three realms trembled intensely as if it was about to completely collapse. All life was about to be destroyed. Even time began to flow in reverse. It seemed like it was returning to the Great Destruction era. A giant that should have fallen countless years ago lived to this era. He once again looked down on all life. He wanted the world to follow his will and start to be destroyed. One has to know that the three heavenly coffins weren't complete. Thus, it was very difficult for them to stop the three realms from returning to destruction. Rumble. Immortal Zhang's arms moved. They emitted the mysteries of heaven and earth, spreading through the three-realm space. In an instant, the world of darkness was overflowing with brilliance. The world of mortals was blazing and surging. The world of immortals was rumbling. Su Yan's palms tore through the heavens of the universe, pushing the three realms forward. The three realms rotated. Billions of palm imprints surged violently, tearing apart the nine heavens. They emitted a mighty and supreme fluctuation. This was the heaven-splitting ancestor's most powerful technique, his ultimate trump card. The current Su Yan operated the three realms. A giant black palm soared from the world of darkness. A giant golden palm soared from the world of mortals. A giant snow-white palm soared from the world of immortals. The three palm imprints simply filled the long river of history. As Immortal Zhang operated them, a terrifying storm appeared, tearing open a passage to the three realms. Heaven revolving palm. Immortal Zhang's domineering aura overflowed. The invincible palm completely awakened. The three palm imprints finally merged into one. It broke the heavens, destroyed the earth, and slaughtered all life. This palm refined the power of all life in the three realms, merging it into one. It contained great fortune and great fortune. It firmly shattered the black hurricane that filled the sky and smashed into the headless creature. The headless creature's entire body trembled. It was immediately sent flying, crashing into the long river outside the realm. It was as if it exploded in the great waves of history. The world was about to lose its influence. The three realms regained its peace once again. This palm was quite ridiculous. A bottomless black hole appeared in the outerverse. Only heaven knew how far away the world was affected. Clang! Immortal Zhang wielded the reincarnation sword. His murderous aura shook the world. He walked with majestic steps towards the unknown region of the boundless primal chaos. His back faced all life as his figure disappeared into the boundless primal chaos darkness. Su Yan, be careful. Bao Kai and the others were worried. He was about to face an ancient giant. However, the current Immortal Zhang was no longer the Immortal Zhang of the past. He fought with the heaven-splitting ancestor's destroyed body and completely established his own invincible great Tao. He didn't fear any evil. At the same time, the heavenly coffins rumbled one after another. The three heavenly coffins opened. The supreme laws were deduced and pressed towards the three realms. They imprisoned the three realms once again to prevent their own destruction from threatening all life in the three realms. Rumble. Even though they were separated by boundless time and space, even though they were separated by the vast primal chaos, there was still a terrifying fluctuation pressing over. That was the storm of battle that was too violent and intense. Roar. An earth-shattering roar exploded. Immortal Zhang's hair fluttered in the wind as he unleashed his peak state. His vitality was too terrifying. He unleashed his Emperor Fist and the reincarnation sword, fighting headless life forms. The boundless primal chaos exploded. The battle was intense. It was either you die or I die. The ancient life forms that were fighting against him emitted the supreme power of reincarnation, affecting the rise and fall of everything. However, Su Yin walked the path of reincarnation and rebirth. He wasn't afraid of reincarnation's influence. He stood at his peak state and waved his emperor fist. His moves were grand. The Tao Celestial Emperor had already arrived. He stared at the crack in the universe and the battle in the primal chaos zone. The two experts' battle reached its climax in a short period of time. Supreme Tao techniques had already intertwined, forming an uncontrollable and intense collision. The Tao Celestial Emperor's injuries had improved a lot. Although he still looked old and weak, his divine might was unparalleled. He punched out and opened up the black hole of the universe created by the heavenly palm. It was as if the true river of epochs had appeared, isolating the crack from the space-time tunnel of the three realms. After all, once the storm of battle surged into the three realms, it would become a great disaster. The three heavenly coffins might not be able to suppress it. The Tao Celestial Emperor's deep eyes looked at the three life forms suppressed by the immortal slaying sword. A hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. Although it was only the aura of Earth and not true Earth, this power made him momentarily dazed. A life form from before the great calamity. Looks like the heaven-splitting ancestor obtained his inheritance and survived the destruction of history. Since this person has fallen for so long and can still come back to life, could it be that he has seen through the secret of reincarnation? The Tao Celestial Emperor frowned slightly. He once had some friends and elders who had fallen. He wanted to see those people reappear. If reincarnation really existed, then he had to search for it. Coming back from the dead was the true secret of reincarnation. The Tao Celestial Emperor had studied it before. Now that he saw a real example, perhaps it really did exist. History had buried everything. A life form even older than the heaven-splitting ancestor. Perhaps there were other life forms even older than this. How many universe eras had passed in the boundless history? The Tao Celestial Emperor stood with his hands behind his back. His figure was exceptionally tall and filled with endless mysteries. Tao Celestial Emperor, can Su Yin deal with the calamity? Some people asked. After all, this antique was too heaven-defying. He had the power of reincarnation that could bring the dead back to life. He might have a terrifying trump card. The Tao Celestial Emperor shook his head and said, "He has no roots and is so badly damaged. There's no hope of recovery." Su Yin was already a supreme. If there really was an expert in this world that could threaten him, then it would definitely be an existence that surpassed the supreme. But did such an expert really exist? The Tao Celestial Emperor couldn't interfere in this battle. Once the three supreme Taos fought, the three supreme Taos would definitely clash and suppress each other. At that time, it would be a chaotic battle. Tao Celestial Emperor, can my granddaughter be saved? The Phoenix King's tears flowed down his face. His injuries were severe. Yes, the Tao Celestial Emperor said softly. Since the mysteries of coming back from the dead really exist, then the Celestial Court must also grasp it. The Black King roared and rushed over. He was so emotional that he couldn't express it with words. His entire body was trembling in madness. He was thinking, can the extreme Tao Great Emperor revive? Can a monster emperor revive? Can the sweeping old man revive? Can the immortal slaying Taoist revive? Heaven Suppression and the others were also shocked. They carefully observed Long Daesung's group and found that they had died long ago. It was the remains of headless beings. The special flesh and blood of the earth allowed them to come back from the dead and give birth to true spirits. Who would dare to believe it? But it really happened. This really opened the eyes of the Tao Celestial Emperor. It wasn't that they weren't strong enough, but that there might be even more terrifying environments in their environment. There really is no end to it. The Tao Celestial Emperor had his hands behind his back. His hair was white and his body was thin, but he was filled with the supreme Celestial Emperor aura that overlooked the river of history. How many eras and epochs had passed in this universe? Who could say for sure where the other side was? The end? The Tao Celestial Emperor chuckled. The world thought that they were the end, but to them, there was another kind of end without a goal. The Tao Celestial Emperor looked into the distance and watched the battle between Su Yin and the Broken Life. That battle caused the chaos unknown land to collapse into a bottomless black hole. The battle was too intense. Immortal Emperor Zong fought for 10 days and 10 nights. The headless being's body was torn into pieces. Of course, he could reassemble himself. His reincarnation ability was heaven-defying. But Immortal Emperor Zong was a supreme expert after all. His combat strength was earth-shattering. He forcefully destroyed large amounts of earth and his special flesh and blood. Immortal Emperor Zong was silent. The battle started too suddenly and ended too suddenly. It was a life and death battle from the beginning. The Supreme did not meet the Supreme. He dragged his heavily injured body back. He brought back some earth and studied it with the Tao Celestial Emperor for a long time. Although Immortal Emperor Zong had destroyed all traces of the earth, it still contained the mysteries of resurrection. But this mystery was already extremely weak. Who is he? Immortal Emperor Zong sighed. He could not figure it out. They did not talk at all. Perhaps, between two supreme experts, they were either friends or enemies. Mu Xian, Dai Song, and Zixia were not in good condition. Time passed quickly. 8,000 years passed. The Tao Celestial Emperor recovered to his peak state. He was heroic and majestic. The Celestial Emperor's prestige was at its peak. He stood in a place where true phoenixes were born. This was his wife's paradise. Once, the miser even obtained a fortune here. He looked at the area where Immortal Emperor Zong returned. He walked for 3,000 years and finally returned. The more one explored the chaos unknown land, the more one felt the vastness and mystery of the universe. It was like one huge ring after another, shrouding and covering one layer after another. One had to break through layer after layer. There were some bloodstains on Immortal Emperor Zhang's body, but his aura was stronger. The river of 10,000 years was about to pass. It was obvious that he was stronger and more powerful. The Tao Celestial Emperor said, Su Yin, although it's not your main body, once your clone dies, it will take too long to recover. It's not worth it. Mu Xian and the others make me feel uneasy. Su Yin was disappointed. I'm worried that I'll lose them one day. They all looked very young. Sometimes this old age life felt very lonely. Perhaps this was the mentality of the heaven-splitting ancestor. He was lonely and always wanted to play the world. I'm almost recovered now. Why don't we go out for a walk together? The Tao Celestial Emperor also had things that he could not let go of. If he could really master the mystery of reincarnation, his old friends who had passed away could really return. You should know. The Tao Celestial Emperor sat on the ground and said, Long Dai Song, Mu Xian, and Zixia. The three of them have fallen. The true spirits that were born do not have the memories of their past lives. If it's this kind of reincarnation, it's better not to have it. Maybe. Su Yin stood up. However, how could he be satisfied if he did not explore? Over the past 8,000 years, the enemies he faced were all very special. Perhaps the utmost being was the true peak, the limit. But everyone's path was different. The Tao Celestial Emperor looked at the three coffins. He really wanted to meet the owner of this coffin. Perhaps he had perished long ago, or perhaps he had died one after another, before the great calamity, before... Why don't we go together? Su Yin suddenly asked. Black King felt that it was reasonable. After such a long time, it was inevitable that he would want to move around. I don't think so, Dao Ling said with his hands behind his back. If we really find a strong civilization, what if we get caught and locked up in jail? What should we do? Brother Monkey did not find it funny at all. A heavenly emperor locked up in jail? That would be too painful. Blackie shuddered. It felt safer to stay and break through to the utmost being in the future before going out. Ha ha ha. Su Yin laughed heartily. He had an old heart. In the future, perhaps it would be a great era where a young man would fight to become the next heavenly emperor. It was like a kind of reincarnation cycle, repeated over and over again, without an end. Finally, He could not stand the loneliness. 100,000 years passed. They set off to explore the vast, unknown land of chaos, exploring the mysteries of the past, present, and future. In a very, very distant world, they wrote one legend after another and created one glorious chapter after another. The dungeon was finished. Doubt of the Emperor's only finished. It had been 2.5 years since the start of the book. Now, it had come to an end. He had mixed feelings. I believe some readers will be satisfied with this ending, but some will not. Anyway, please leave a comment. Leave a comment on my public account, Green Sky Leaf. This book was very tiring to write, mainly because the later part of the book was very tiring. The content of Tao of the Emperors only in the later part was not released to everyone. I'm sorry, but I'll make it up in the future. Shaking the Heavens, Unparalleled Emperor, Tao of the Emperors only. After 7 years, I've finished 3 Xuanhuan books. I've accumulated a lot of experience, crossed many obstacles, and learned many things. I've become an old author. Green Sky is about to become a father. I'm getting older and older. I'm almost 30. I'm really old. Some readers have been following the Green Sky book since the first book. Shake my hand, haha. Even writing a few words of thanks is very weak. I'm already preparing for my 4th book. I've been preparing it for a long time. After 7 years of sharpening my sword, this book will break through myself. Dear Emperors, I wish you all good health and happiness. See you in the next book. Reading House.